Most people care more about themselves than about you. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but the truth is, most people care more about themselves than they ever will about you. It sounds cruel, even depressing, but it is rooted in the reality of human nature. Every person lives inside their own head, consumed by their own fears, desires, struggles, and insecurities. When you think others are judging you, criticizing you, or obsessing over your flaws, they're usually too preoccupied with their own lives to truly notice. This truth can feel like abandonment if you crave validation, but it is actually a form of liberation once you grasp it. We are wired to survive, to protect ourselves, and to advance our own interests. Even acts of kindness often carry hidden motives, because helping others makes people feel good about themselves, strengthens their image, or fulfills their own needs for connection. This doesn't mean people are incapable of love or loyalty, but it does mean their deepest loyalty will almost always remain with themselves. Expecting anyone to put you first consistently will only leave you disappointed. The sting of this realization is sharp. It means the comfort you long for, the attention you crave, and the recognition you hope to receive may never arrive. It means the people you think about constantly may barely think about you at all. But beneath the sting lies freedom. If most people are wrapped up in themselves, then their opinions of you hold far less weight than you believe. You are not under the spotlight as much as you fear. Once you accept this, you stop living for their approval. You stop shrinking yourself to avoid their judgment, and you finally begin to live unapologetically because their silence and their indifference no longer control you. Hard work doesn't guarantee success. We are raised on the comforting belief that if you just work hard enough, everything you dream of will eventually fall into place. It is drilled into us as children, reinforced by parents, teachers, and endless motivational slogans. But the harsh truth is that hard work, while essential, does not guarantee success. There are millions of people grinding themselves to the bone every single day who will never see their efforts pay off in the way they imagined. Hard work can increase your chances, but it does not shield you from failure, randomness, or the cold reality of competition. Life is not a straight equation where effort automatically equals results. Some people are born into privilege, others inherit connections, some stumble into luck, and many others are crushed by circumstances outside their control. You could pour your soul into a business only to have it collapse from a market crash. You could train harder than anyone else and still never be the fastest, strongest, or most talented in the room. You could sacrifice years for a company that replaces you the moment you're no longer convenient. This is why so many hardworking people carry quiet bitterness, because they believe their sweat and pain bought them a guarantee that was never real. The emotional sting comes when you realize the world doesn't reward effort, it rewards results. Hard work is only one piece of the equation. You also need strategy, timing, adaptability, connections, and sometimes just brutal luck. Accepting this hurts, but it also frees you. It forces you to stop believing life is fair, to stop clinging to a false promise, and instead to learn how to play the game with eyes wide open. Life isn't fair, and it never will be. One of the most excruciating truths you'll ever face is that life is not fair, and no matter how much you wish, fight, or cry about it, it never will be. From the moment you are born, the scales are uneven. Some people arrive into wealth while others inherit poverty. Some are born healthy while others begin life already carrying disease. Some are gifted with beauty, charisma, or genius, while others must claw their way through every single obstacle just to be noticed. Life doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't hand out equal opportunities, and it doesn't operate on the principles of justice we long for. This reality is cruel because we crave order. We want to believe the good will be rewarded, the wicked will be punished, and that effort will always be recognized. But then you see liars and manipulators climbing to power while honest people are overlooked. You see cruelty go unpunished while kindness is taken for granted. You see tragedy strike the innocent while the corrupt thrive untouched. It gnaws at your soul, this imbalance, because you desperately want the world to make sense. But the brutal truth is it doesn't. And when you cling to the illusion that life should be fair, you only set yourself up for endless disappointment. The day you accept life's unfairness is the day you stop wasting energy screaming at the storm. You begin to adapt, to play with the hand you've been dealt instead of wishing for another. It hurts to swallow, but once you do, you stop waiting for fairness and start creating your own power in a world that owes you none. You can do everything right and still fail. Perhaps one of the most gut-wrenching lessons in life is realizing you can do everything right and still fail. You can follow every rule, make every smart choice, prepare for every outcome, and pour yourself entirely into a dream, only to watch it crumble in front of you. This truth cuts so deep because it strips away the comforting belief that control guarantees reward. We want to think that if we work hard, stay disciplined, and keep our intentions pure, the universe will align to honor our effort. But life doesn't play by those rules. Sometimes you lose the job even though you were the best candidate. Sometimes you love with everything you have and still get abandoned. Sometimes your business collapses because of a market shift you could never have predicted. Sometimes the opportunity you've trained your whole life for slips through your fingers in a single instant. It's a pain that doesn't just sting, it breaks something inside of you because you thought you were safe if you did things the right way. Failure in the face of perfect effort feels cruel, but it is reality. And yet, within that devastation lies a quiet revelation. Success is never guaranteed, no matter how flawless the preparation. You learn to stop clinging to outcomes and start valuing the process itself. You learn resilience, not when life rewards you, but when it betrays you after you've done everything in your power. That's where true strength is forged, in the ashes of the plans that didn't work, when you realize you are still standing, still breathing, and still capable of trying again. Time is the only resource you can't replace. There is no resource more precious, more fragile, and more unforgiving than time. You can lose money and earn it back. You can fail at love and try again. You can ruin your health and, to some degree, rebuild it. But once time slips through your fingers, it is gone forever, and nothing in this world can return it to you. Every second that ticks away is a second of your life you will never get back. This truth is terrifying because it means you are spending your life constantly, whether you realize it or not. People live as though time is endless. They waste days on people who don't care for them, on jobs they hate, on scrolling endlessly through distractions, believing tomorrow will always be there. But tomorrow is a fragile illusion. You don't get to decide how much time you have left. Death does not warn you before it arrives, and regret is the heaviest companion you can carry into your final days. It is in those quiet, haunting moments when people realize they traded away the most irreplaceable currency of existence for things that never mattered. This realization cuts deep because it forces you to confront your own mortality. It demands that you ask yourself whether the way you spend your hours reflects the life you truly want to live. Time is not a loan. It is not refundable. It is slipping through your hands every single moment, and it doesn't care whether you used it wisely or not. You either take ownership of it now, or one day you'll look back and wonder where it all went. Not everyone you love will love you back. Few truths cut as deep as realizing that not everyone you love will love you back. It's a sting that feels almost unbearable because love is one of the most vulnerable gifts you can offer. You open your chest, you bare your soul, you pour pieces of yourself into someone else, and sometimes they simply cannot or will not return it. You can be kind, loyal, giving, and genuine, and still find that your love is met with indifference, distance, or even rejection. That reality feels cruel, but it is a law of life as constant as gravity. Love is not a transaction where effort guarantees return. People love based on their desires, wounds, timing, and capacity, not your worth. Sometimes they don't feel what you feel. Sometimes they are too broken to reciprocate, and sometimes they crave something you cannot provide. The pain comes not only from their absence of love, but from the way it forces you to confront the limits of your control. You cannot will someone to care. You cannot force someone's heart to mirror yours. The torment lies in the silence between what you give and what you receive. You stay up thinking of them while they sleep peacefully without a thought of you. You replay moments, dissect words, and search for signs, while to them it was nothing more than passing time. This lesson shatters illusions, but it also liberates you, because once you accept that love is not guaranteed, you stop begging for it where it doesn't exist. You realize your worth is not diminished by their blindness, and that the love you seek must first come from within. Money won't fix your deeper problems. We grow up believing money is the answer to everything, that if we just earn enough, the emptiness will fade, the pain will heal, and happiness will finally settle in. And yes, money matters. It puts food on the table, keeps the lights on, buys freedom, and eases the crushing weight of survival. But beyond meeting your basic needs, money cannot mend the fractures inside you. It won't heal the trauma you carry from childhood. It won't erase the loneliness that gnaws at you in the silence of your room. It won't bring back the people you've lost, nor will it give you purpose when you wake up with no reason to keep going. The cruel truth is money can disguise problems, but it cannot solve them. People who feel worthless will still feel worthless in a mansion. Couples who are broken will still scream at each other in luxury cars. Addictions, insecurities, and self-hatred don't vanish with a padded bank account. They often get magnified because there's nothing left to hide behind once survival is no longer the excuse. This is why some of the wealthiest people in the world confess to being the most miserable, why celebrities overdose, and why billionaires still chase more despite already owning everything. Chasing money without addressing what's hollow inside you is like pouring water into a cracked glass. It leaks no matter how much you fill it. It hurts to realize that what you really need isn't more wealth but more healing, more connection, more meaning. Money may buy comfort, but it cannot buy peace. And without peace, no amount of riches will ever feel like enough. Looks fade, but character stays. The world glorifies beauty, and it's easy to get caught up in it. Attention, admiration, and opportunities often come quicker to those who are blessed with good looks, but beauty is a cruel currency. It depreciates with time no matter how hard you fight to preserve it. Wrinkles arrive, bodies change, hair turns gray, and the sharpness of youth inevitably dulls. What once drew people toward you eventually fades, and if your entire identity is built on appearance, the day you lose it is the day you feel invisible. Character, however, doesn't age. Integrity, kindness, resilience, and the way you treat others endure far longer than flawless skin or a perfect body ever could. When people remember you, it will not be for the symmetry of your face, but for the way you made them feel. A beautiful face might open doors, but it is character that decides if they stay open. A stunning appearance may catch someone's eye, but it is your depth, loyalty, and honesty that capture their soul. The painful truth is that society will discard those who cling to fading beauty as if it is the only thing that matters. Yet those who cultivate strength of character find themselves more magnetic with time. Looks can attract a crowd, but character builds a legacy. The sting is realizing that beauty is temporary and cannot save you from the erosion of time. But the gift is knowing that what you build within yourself can outlast every wrinkle and remain untouchable until the very end. Comfort zones destroy ambition. Comfort feels safe. It feels warm, predictable, and deceptively satisfying. It lulls you into routines that don't challenge you, into habits that don't stretch you, and into a life that slowly robs you of your hunger for more. Your comfort zone is a silent killer of dreams because it convinces you that good enough is an acceptable replacement for greatness. You stop taking risks, you stop chasing possibilities, and before long, you stop even imagining more for yourself. Ambition dies not in chaos, but in comfort. What makes this truth so brutal is how easy it is to justify staying where you are. You tell yourself you'll chase the dream later, when you're ready. You convince yourself that stability matters more than growth. You tell yourself that happiness is found in being content, when deep down you know you're settling for less than you're capable of. Comfort seduces you with the illusion of peace, but underneath it festers the slow rot of regret. One day you'll look back and realize the years you thought you were taking it easy were actually the years you wasted the most. Ambition needs discomfort to survive. Growth demands risk, uncertainty, and the willingness to feel pain. You cannot climb mountains if you refuse to leave the valley. Every great achievement, every powerful transformation, every story worth telling is born in the space where comfort ends and challenge begins. The longer you cling to the safety of your comfort zone, the smaller your life becomes. And the terrifying truth is, you won't notice the chains tightening until it's too late. Your parents won't be here forever. It's a truth most people bury deep inside, one they refuse to face until it's too late. Your parents will not be here forever. The voices that shaped your childhood, the faces that greeted you when you came home, the people you took for granted as permanent fixtures in your life are not unshakable. One day, their chair will be empty, their phone will go unanswered, and their absence will echo louder than their presence ever did. That thought alone has the power to break you. Yet, most of us push it aside, living as though our parents will always be just a call away. The brutality of this lesson is in its timing. By the time you realize how precious their existence was, the clock has already run out. You spend years arguing over small things, ignoring their calls, postponing visits because you're too busy, all while time silently steals them away. You assume there will be another holiday, another dinner, another chance to tell them you love them. And then suddenly, there isn't. The regrets that follow are merciless because you can never buy back a single second once it's gone. It hurts because deep down you know they won't always be there to guide you, forgive you, or remind you who you are. And yet, within that pain lies an urgent reminder. Every laugh, every story, every hug is finite. The love they give is fragile and irreplaceable. The clock is ticking whether you acknowledge it or not, and when it stops, it will leave a silence you'll never be able to fill. Friends will drift apart, no matter how close you are. One of the quiet tragedies of life is realizing that even the closest friendships are not guaranteed forever. You grow up with people who feel like family, you share secrets, inside jokes, nights that feel endless, and promises that nothing will ever change. In those moments, it feels impossible to imagine a life where they are not by your side. But time is ruthless. People change, paths diverge, and the bond you thought was unbreakable begins to loosen. Sometimes it happens suddenly with a fight or betrayal, but more often it happens silently through distance, new priorities, or simply the slow erosion of connection. The pain of this lesson is that love alone isn't always enough to keep people bound together. Careers pull friends across the world, families shift their focus, ambition, hardship, or even personal growth can create gaps that no amount of nostalgia can fill. You'll scroll through old photos and ache for a time when everything felt permanent, when you could just knock on their door and know they'd be there. But life moves people forward, and sometimes that means moving away from you. What makes this hurt so deeply is that it feels like a betrayal of the past. You wonder if the laughter, the loyalty, the late-night conversations meant less to them than to you. The truth is, They did matter, just not forever. Friendships are seasons, some lasting years, some decades, some only brief sparks in the darkness. Accepting this doesn't dull the sting, but it teaches you to cherish every moment while it's alive, because one day, even the closest friends may only exist as memories you revisit alone. You'll be forgotten in a few generations. It's a haunting truth that no matter how much you love, how hard you work, or how deeply you impact the people around you, within just a few generations, your name will fade into silence. Your grandchildren may remember your voice, your laugh, your habits, but their children won't, and the ones after that will know you only as a vague story, if they know you at all. The photos of you that once felt so alive will gather dust in a box or be deleted in a cloud purge. The world that consumed your thoughts and dreams will move forward without hesitation. This realization cuts deep because we spend our lives desperately trying to matter, to leave footprints, to make an impact, to be remembered. Yet history shows us how quickly names disappear. Millions lived before you, each with loves, fears, ambitions, and heartbreaks as real as yours. Where are they now? Buried under time, their existence reduced to silence. The same fate awaits you. It doesn't matter how beautiful you were, how wealthy, how hardworking, or even how kind. Eventually, you will become just another faceless part of the past, and that truth is terrifying because it forces you to confront how small you really are in the grand scheme, but it also strips away the illusions. If you will be forgotten, then the pressure to live for recognition collapses. You realize the only real meaning lies in now, in how deeply you love, how fiercely you live, and how authentically you show up while you still can. Because immortality isn't found in being remembered forever. It's found in mattering fiercely to the people who are here, right now. Good intentions don't excuse bad outcomes. We cling to the idea that if our heart was in the right place, the damage we cause should be forgiven. But the truth is far harsher. Good intentions don't erase the consequences of bad choices. You can mean well and still devastate someone's life. You can try to help and still end up hurting. You can love deeply and still cause irreparable scars. Intent may explain your actions, but it does not undo the harm those actions create. This lesson stings because it strips away the comforting shield of innocence we try to hide behind. When someone bleeds because of what you did, your explanation that you meant well doesn't stop the wound from throbbing. When trust is broken, when opportunities are ruined, when pain is inflicted, your intentions become irrelevant in the shadow of the damage left behind. People remember how you made them feel, not the purity of your motives. It forces you to confront responsibility in its rawest form. You are not judged only by what you hoped would happen, but by what actually happened. That's why apologies often feel hollow. They cannot erase impact. It's why victims of betrayal, neglect, or failure rarely find comfort in knowing they didn't mean to. What makes this truth brutal is its permanence. Harm echoes long after intent fades, and you cannot control how others carry the weight of what you did. You can explain, you can regret, but you cannot demand forgiveness, because consequences live on long after your excuses are spoken. People judge you on results, not effort. One of the most crushing realizations in life is that people care far less about how hard you tried than about what you actually achieved. Effort is invisible. Results are undeniable. You can spend sleepless nights working, sacrifice your comfort, bleed for your dream, and still be dismissed if you have nothing tangible to show for it. The world doesn't hand out rewards for sweat. It hands them out for outcomes. That truth is brutal because deep down you want your struggle to mean something. You want others to recognize the pain it took to even get close, but most won't. In the workplace, no one celebrates the hours you stayed late unless the project succeeds. In relationships, your partner doesn't always see the love in the little things you tried. They feel the absence when needs aren't met. In society, people look up to those who won, not those who almost made it. The brutal irony is that sometimes those who put in the least effort but deliver the best timing, strategy, or luck are praised above those who sacrificed everything but fell short. This reality leaves scars because it feels unfair. It feels as though your pain was wasted, as though no one truly sees how much you gave. But it's also the wake-up call you need. Life rewards impact, not intention. It rewards what can be measured, touched, or remembered, not the unseen hours behind it. Accepting this forces you to shift from simply working hard to working effectively, because at the end of the day, people won't ask how much it cost you. They'll only ask, did it work? No one is thinking about you as much as you think. One of the most liberating yet brutal truths is that no one is obsessing over you the way you believe they are. You replay that awkward sentence you said, the mistake you made, the moment you stumbled, convinced the world is still whispering about it. But the reality is people are far too consumed with their own lives to spend more than a fleeting second thinking about yours. The human mind is self-absorbed. We live in constant loops of our own fears, desires, insecurities, and responsibilities. And while you're lying awake imagining the judgment of others, they are doing the same about themselves. It's painful because your ego craves attention. You want to believe your life is significant enough to be at the center of someone else's focus, whether for admiration or ridicule. But once you realize how little space you actually occupy in the thoughts of others, it stings. That embarrassment you carry like a scar, they forgot it by the next morning. That flaw you magnify in the mirror, they never noticed because they were too busy picking apart their own reflection. This truth can feel cruel at first because it forces you to confront how insignificant your worries are in the grand scheme of things. Yet hidden inside it is a strange kind of freedom. If no one is watching as closely as you think, you don't have to live shackled to their imagined judgment. You don't have to hold yourself hostage to an audience that isn't even paying attention. You are freer than you realize, free to act, to fail, to try again, because everyone else is too lost in their own storm to track yours. You're not as special as you were told as a kid. Growing up, many of us were fed the comforting lie that we were extraordinary, destined for greatness simply because we existed. Teachers, parents, and society whispered it into our ears. You're unique. You're special. You can do anything. It felt good. It made childhood magical, and it gave us a sense of significance. But the brutal awakening comes in adulthood, when the world shows you it doesn't care about your uniqueness. You step into the real arena and discover that millions of others are just as talented, just as driven, and just as hungry as you are. Suddenly, your specialness doesn't mean much. This realization is crushing because it shatters the illusion of being chosen, of being set apart by destiny. It feels like betrayal, like everything you were promised was a lie. You discover that success isn't handed to those who are different. It goes to those who fight, who endure, who strategize, who adapt. And often, it goes to those who simply get lucky. Being special doesn't protect you from heartbreak, failure, or insignificance. It doesn't guarantee anyone will notice your worth. But within this pain is a strange kind of freedom. If you are not inherently special, then you have nothing to prove except to yourself. You no longer live with the pressure of fulfilling some mythical destiny. Instead, you realize that meaning must be created, not gifted. You stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. And though it stings to realize you are just one among billions, it also awakens a deeper truth. Your value doesn't come from being special. It comes from what you build, how you live, and the love and grit you choose to give while you're here. Most people only want you when you're useful. It's a cruel reality to face, but for most people, your value begins and ends with your usefulness. They want your time when it benefits them, your skills when it solves their problems, your presence when it entertains them, your ear when they need to unload their burdens. The moment you have nothing to offer, or worse, When you need something from them, you begin to see just how conditional their attention truly is. This truth cuts deep because it forces you to confront how transactional human relationships can be, even the ones that feel genuine. Think about the times you've been praised at work, adored in friendships, or admired by strangers. How often was it tied to what you could give rather than who you actually are? People rarely admit it, but they gravitate toward those who serve their interests. And when you stop being useful, the silence becomes deafening. Suddenly, the people who couldn't live without you vanish. The phone stops ringing. The gratitude fades. You're left realizing you were never cherished. You were convenient. This lesson is painful because it shatters illusions of unconditional loyalty. It reveals that much of what we call love, friendship, or respect is often disguised dependency. It's not that everyone is cold or cruel, but survival instincts make people prioritize their own needs first. That's why the moment you stop serving them, they move on to someone who will. And yet, in this harsh truth lies clarity. When you strip away usefulness, the ones who remain are rare and real. They don't stay because of what you give, they stay because of who you are. Everyone else was never yours to keep. Love is not enough to sustain a relationship. It's one of the hardest lessons to accept, that love, as powerful and intoxicating as it feels, is not enough to hold a relationship together. Movies, songs, and stories feed us the illusion that love conquers all, that if two people truly care for each other, they can weather anything. But in reality, love is only the spark. It is not the structure. You can love someone deeply and still find yourselves breaking apart. You can share passion, chemistry, and history, yet watch it all collapse under the weight of neglect, resentment, or incompatibility. Relationships demand more than feelings. They demand communication, respect, trust, patience, sacrifice, and an unrelenting effort to grow together rather than drift apart. Without these, love suffocates. It twists into arguments that repeat endlessly, into silent distances where words once lived, into bitterness where tenderness used to bloom. You can adore someone with your entire soul and still not survive the storms if both of you refuse to build the foundation strong enough to endure them. The devastation lies in realizing that love is not a shield. It cannot erase betrayal. It cannot replace honesty. It cannot balance one-sided effort. Sometimes two people love each other but want different futures. Sometimes they love each other but keep wounding one another in ways that love cannot heal. That is why so many hearts break while still full of love, because love by itself was never the glue. The cruel truth is that love alone is fragile, and without the pillars of commitment and compatibility, it eventually crumbles, leaving behind a haunting ache of what could have been. Happiness is temporary, so is sadness. One of the hardest truths to hold on to is that nothing you feel will last forever. Happiness is fleeting. Sadness is fleeting. Every high eventually dips, and every low eventually lifts. Yet we cling to happiness as if we can freeze it in time, terrified that once it slips through our fingers, it may never return. And when sadness comes, we convince ourselves it will consume us forever, that the weight pressing down will never let us breathe again. But life doesn't work that way. Emotions are not permanent states. They are passing weather, and no storm, no sunshine ever lingers without end. This truth hurts because when happiness arrives, you want to own it, to stretch it endlessly, to believe you finally made it. But it fades. The laughter quiets. The excitement cools. The love you thought would never dim begins to shift, and the loss can feel unbearable, like life is cruel for taking away what you cherished most. But just as painful is the opposite, the belief that sadness defines you. When heartbreak guts you, when failure suffocates you, when grief leaves you hollow, it feels eternal. The clock slows, the world darkens, and you start to believe you will never escape. But you do. Slowly, silently, life moves, seasons change, smiles return in moments you didn't expect, Light breaks through cracks in the grief. Both happiness and sadness are reminders of the same lesson. Everything changes. The beauty is in knowing that neither joy nor pain owns you forever. Both are temporary guests, and your life is bigger than either one. Discipline beats motivation. Motivation feels intoxicating. It's the spark that makes you believe you can change your life, the adrenaline rush that pushes you to start a project, hit the gym, or chase a dream. But motivation is fleeting. It comes in bursts, unreliable and unpredictable, disappearing the moment things get hard. Discipline, however, is what carries you through the days when you feel like quitting. It is the unglamorous, relentless force that builds a life brick by brick, even when every ounce of you screams to stop. The brutal truth is that those who rely only on motivation never last. They burn bright and fade fast, constantly waiting for inspiration to strike, constantly trapped in cycles of starting and stopping. Discipline doesn't care how you feel in the moment. It doesn't require passion, energy, or excitement. It is the simple, painful choice to keep showing up no matter what, to write when the words won't come, to train when your body aches, to push forward when no one is watching and no one is clapping. This lesson stings because it means your feelings don't matter as much as you want them to. The world does not reward your intentions. It rewards what you repeatedly do, even when you don't feel like doing it. Motivation might get you moving, but discipline is what makes you unstoppable. It strips away excuses, silences self-pity, and transforms small actions into massive change over time. The day you stop chasing the high of motivation and start submitting to the grind of discipline is the day your life truly begins to shift. Your health can vanish overnight. We live as though our bodies are invincible, as if tomorrow will always arrive with the same strength, energy, and stability we take for granted today. But the reality is far more fragile. Your health can vanish overnight. One accident, one diagnosis, one sudden collapse, and the life you thought was yours to control can be ripped away in a single moment. You can go to bed healthy and wake up in a hospital bed. You can plan decades ahead and watch them disappear with a single phone call from a doctor. This truth is terrifying because it reminds you of just how little control you really have. People imagine sickness creeping in slowly with age, but often it doesn't ask for permission. It comes suddenly, without warning, and leaves you scrambling to piece together the life you thought you had time for. The dreams you put off, the people you postponed seeing, the chances you waited to take, all of it stands there mocking you when your body no longer allows you to move the way you once did. And what makes this lesson so brutal is that health is the one foundation everything else in life is built upon. Without it, money means little, ambitions shrink, and even love is strained under the weight of constant suffering. You don't realize how much you've neglected your body until it betrays you. The truth is, your time and freedom are only as secure as your health, and it can all disappear in a single, merciless instant. Success attracts envy, not just admiration. When you imagine success, you picture applause, recognition, and the warmth of admiration. You think people will celebrate your victories, cheer for your growth, and respect the sacrifices it took to get there. But the truth is far darker. Success doesn't only attract admiration, it attracts envy, resentment, and even hatred. The moment you rise above the average, you shine a light on other people's insecurities. Your success becomes a mirror, reflecting back what they haven't done, what they wish they had, or what they're too afraid to pursue. And instead of inspiring them, it poisons them. You'll notice it in the subtle ways first. Friends who once supported you stop showing up. Family members downplay your achievements. Colleagues whisper behind your back. Strangers online tear you apart for the very things they once praised. The higher you climb, the lonelier it gets, because people are far more comfortable with you struggling than with you thriving. Success exposes the truth of human nature. Admiration is easy when you're harmless, But the moment you become a reminder of someone else's failures, envy seeps in. The pain of this realization cuts deep because you want your victories to bring people closer, not push them away. You want others to feel proud of you, not threatened by you. But this is the price of growth. Success separates you from the crowd, and not everyone can stomach the reflection it forces them to face. And while you may still receive admiration, know that lurking just beneath the surface of many smiles is envy, waiting, watching, wishing you would stumble. Regret weighs more than failure. Failure stings, but regret crushes. When you fail, at least you know you tried. You stood up, took the shot, and even if it didn't land, you gained something: lessons, resilience, a story, proof that you had the courage to move. But regret is different. Regret festers in silence. It's the heavy ache of the words you never said, the chances you never took, the life you never dared to chase. It's not a sharp pain that fades with time. It's a slow poison that seeps deeper the longer you live with it. The brutality of regret is that it whispers, "What if?" in the quiet hours, long after the window of opportunity has closed. You imagine alternate versions of yourself, braver, bolder, freer, living lives that you never allowed yourself to experience. Failure at least gives closure, but regret leaves you haunted by a ghost of possibility. And the older you get, the heavier it feels. Opportunities don't wait forever, and the realization that you wasted years standing still can break something inside you in a way failure never could. Failure hurts, but it moves you forward. You stumble, but you grow. You fall, but you rise. Regret keeps you frozen, replaying the same moment, the same fear, the same hesitation over and over until it chains you to the past. The pain of falling is nothing compared to the pain of never jumping at all. And when the end of your life approaches, it won't be your failures that haunt you. It will be all the things you were too afraid to even try. Complaining changes nothing. Complaining feels good in the moment. It gives you a sense of release, a way to voice your frustrations, to point at the unfairness of life, to gather sympathy from others who nod along. But beneath the temporary relief, nothing changes. The bills remain unpaid, the weight doesn't disappear, the toxic job doesn't improve, and the broken relationship doesn't heal. Complaining is seductive because it tricks you into thinking you're doing something about your problems, when in reality, you're just circling them without moving an inch. The harsh truth is that life doesn't bend for your grievances. The universe does not care about your complaints. Time keeps moving forward whether you speak your pain or not. People may listen for a while, but eventually they grow numb because words without action lose their weight. And the longer you indulge in complaint, the deeper you carve a hole of helplessness, teaching yourself that you are powerless, when in reality you are simply avoiding responsibility. This realization hurts because complaining feels like connection, but it's often poison. It drives away the strong, attracts only the miserable, and keeps you stuck in the very cycle you despise. The sting is realizing that no amount of words will ever substitute for action. No one is coming to fix it for you. Change only comes when you decide to stop describing the problem and start doing something about it. The silence after giving up complaints is brutal, but it is also the place where real progress begins to take root. People die younger than they expect. We all live with a quiet illusion that death is something far away, reserved for the elderly, a distant shadow we'll face someday when we are ready. But the brutal truth is that people die younger than they expect. Death doesn't wait for you to finish your plans. It doesn't care about the dreams you haven't pursued, the apologies you haven't spoken, or the love you haven't expressed. It arrives suddenly, often without warning, and leaves behind shattered lives, unanswered questions, and a haunting reminder that tomorrow is never promised. Look around and you'll see the proof everywhere. Accidents that steal children, illnesses that strike the young, violence that cuts down lives in their prime. Families gather at funerals in disbelief, whispering the same words again and again. They were too young. But the truth is, death has no regard for age, status, or timing. It comes for the healthy and the sick, the prepared and the unprepared, the cautious and the reckless. This reality stings because it strips away the illusion of control. We tell ourselves we have time to fix broken relationships, time to pursue our passions, time to finally start living the life we imagine. But time is not guaranteed, and every day spent waiting is a gamble against a clock you cannot see. The harshness of this truth is not just in the loss of others, but in the knowledge that it could be you. One day, your story will end sooner than you planned, and all that will remain are the things you either did or never had the courage to do. Your job will replace you within weeks if you leave. One of the most brutal realities of modern life is that no matter how hard you work, no matter how loyal you are, no matter how many hours you've sacrificed for your job, the moment you step away, by choice or by force, your role will be filled in a matter of weeks. Companies run on systems, not sentiment. They don't pause to mourn your absence. They adapt, redistribute, and replace. The tasks you lost sleep over, the deadlines that felt like life or death, will be handed off to someone else as if you were never there. It hurts because we like to believe we are irreplaceable. We convince ourselves that our loyalty, our long nights, our sacrifices matter to the machine we serve. But to most employers, you are a function, not a family. You can be praised, rewarded, even liked. But when the moment comes, business will continue without you. That stings because it exposes how much of your life you may have given to something that cannot love you back. And yet, this lesson carries a strange kind of freedom. If your job will replace you quickly, why sacrifice your entire existence for it? Why trade precious time with loved ones, passions, or your own health for a role that sees you as disposable? The brutal truth is that the company you work for is temporary, but your life is not. And when you finally accept that your job won't die without you, you begin to understand that your real worth lies in building a life outside those walls, because they can replace your position, but they can never replace you. No one cares about your excuses. Excuses feel comforting in the moment. They shield you from shame, soften the sting of failure, and paint you as a victim of circumstance rather than the architect of your own choices. But the harsh truth is, no one cares about your excuses. The world judges you by what you produce, not by the stories you tell to explain why you couldn't. People might nod when you justify yourself, but inside, they only see results or the lack of them. Excuses don't change reality. They only reveal where you surrendered your power. This lesson cuts deep because excuses often feel valid. Maybe you were tired. Maybe life was unfair. Maybe you truly had obstacles stacked against you. But life is indifferent to your reasons. Deadlines don't shift for your comfort. Opportunities don't reopen because you had a rough week. Competitors don't slow down so you can catch up. Every excuse, no matter how logical, only leaves you further behind. And when repeated long enough, excuses transform into identity. You become someone who almost did, who could have, who should have, but never did. What makes this truth so brutal is how isolating it feels. You realize people don't hold space for your struggles the way you imagined because they are drowning in their own. They care about what you can deliver, not why you didn't. It hurts to see your explanations met with silence, but that silence is a mirror. The world moves on without waiting for your reasons. The moment you stop leaning on excuses, you reclaim your control. But until then, no one is listening. Most people settle instead of chasing what they want. One of the darkest truths about life is that most people do not live the lives they dreamed of. They settle. They settle for jobs they hate, for relationships that drain them, for routines that numb them, all while convincing themselves that this is what being realistic looks like. At some point, the fire they once carried, the hunger for adventure, the vision of something greater, get smothered by fear, comfort, and the weight of responsibility. And slowly, they stop chasing what they truly want and accept whatever is handed to them. The reason is simple but brutal. Chasing what you want is terrifying. It requires risk, sacrifice, and the possibility of failure. It demands courage when everything in you wants safety. Settling, on the other hand, offers predictability. It promises stability, even if it comes wrapped in quiet misery. And so people trade passion for comfort, potential for security, and dreams for routine. They convince themselves it's enough, but deep down, a haunting emptiness lingers, the knowing that they could have been more, done more, lived more. This truth hurts to face because it forces you to look at your own life and ask if you're settling too. It's easier to believe you'll chase your dreams someday, but someday rarely comes, and when it does, it often arrives too late. Most people die with their music still inside them, with their dreams still locked away. The sting of this lesson is realizing that settling is not living. It's slow death, and if you don't want to end up like most people, you have to choose the terrifying path of chasing what you want, no matter the cost. Life punishes procrastination. Procrastination feels harmless in the moment. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, that there's still plenty of time, that one more hour, one more day won't make a difference. But life is merciless to those who wait. Every delay compounds silently, stacking wasted days into wasted years, until suddenly the chance you thought you had forever is gone. Opportunities expire, people move on, time erodes your energy, your youth, and your potential, and life does not hand them back because you weren't ready. The sting of procrastination isn't immediate, it's delayed. It arrives when you finally feel the weight of the years you wasted, when you realize someone braver took the shot you hesitated on, when you see doors slam shut that will never open again, the job you didn't apply for, the person you didn't confess to, the project you never started, all of them haunt you, not because they failed, but because you never gave them a chance. This truth cuts so deeply because procrastination disguises itself as comfort. It feels safe to postpone risk, to avoid discomfort, to wait until you feel more confident. But life does not reward hesitation. It rewards action. And while you're waiting for the perfect time, someone else is already living the life you dream about. The punishment for procrastination is regret. Regret for the words you never spoke, the leaps you never took, the life you never lived. And the cruelest part, the world moves on without you, leaving you behind with nothing but the echo of what could have been. Words mean little without action. It's easy to speak. Words cost nothing, require no sacrifice, and can be shaped into anything someone else wants to hear. Promises, apologies, declarations of love, vows of change, they all sound powerful in the moment. But the brutal truth is that words mean almost nothing without action to back them up. A promise without follow-through is just air. An apology without change is just manipulation. Love without effort is just a hollow echo. People may be moved by what you say once or twice, but over time, they will always measure you by what you do. This truth is painful because words feel so real in the moment. Hearing "I love you," "I'll be there," or "I promise I'll change" can flood your heart with hope. But then comes the waiting, the watching, the disappointment when nothing actually shifts. That sting is unforgettable. The realization that someone's voice carried weight only long enough to comfort you, never long enough to transform into reality. It breeds distrust, not just in them, but in words altogether. And it cuts both ways. You can talk for years about your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, but unless you move, unless you sacrifice, unless you act, your words are worthless. Life does not reward intention. It rewards execution. People don't remember what you said nearly as much as they remember how you showed up. The harshness of this lesson is also its clarity. Words may open the door, but only action walks you through it. Without action, words are nothing more than lies dressed in sound. Entitlement kills growth. Entitlement whispers that the world owes you something simply for existing, for showing up, for working hard, for enduring pain, for being who you are. It convinces you that success, recognition, and happiness should fall into your lap without the messy grind of sacrifice, patience, and humility. But the brutal truth is, entitlement suffocates growth. The moment you believe you deserve everything without earning it, you stop striving, you stop learning, and you stop pushing yourself beyond comfort. Entitlement is the silent poison that robs you of resilience before you even realize it's happening. Growth is born in struggle. It comes from failing, adjusting, and forcing yourself to rise again when no one is clapping for you. But entitlement shields you from this process by telling you the world is unfair for not giving you what you want right now. It feeds bitterness when others succeed. It breeds jealousy instead of inspiration, and it blinds you to the very lessons hidden inside rejection. Instead of asking, "What can I learn?" entitlement screams, "Why me?" And in that mindset, growth dies. What makes this truth sting is that entitlement often masquerades as confidence. You tell yourself you've worked hard enough, suffered long enough, given enough, and therefore the universe must deliver. But life does not bend to your sense of fairness. It doesn't care about your timeline or your comfort. The second you demand instead of earn, you stagnate. And years later, you're left with nothing but anger at a world that failed you, when in reality, it was entitlement that kept you from ever truly evolving. Bad habits are easier to form than good ones. The cruel reality of human behavior is that bad habits take root far quicker than good ones ever will. Skipping the gym once easily turns into weeks of laziness. One night of fast food becomes a routine. A single scroll through your phone when you should be working transforms into hours of wasted time. Bad habits grow like weeds, effortless, aggressive, and relentless. They demand nothing from you except surrender. Good habits, on the other hand, are fragile. They require discipline, repetition, and conscious effort, often with little reward in the beginning. Waking up early feels like torture before it feels like freedom. Eating healthy feels like deprivation before it feels like strength. Saving money feels like sacrifice before it feels like security. To build a good habit, you must fight yourself day after day, while bad habits slide into your life with seductive ease, disguised as comfort, pleasure, or relief. The sting of this truth is realizing how quickly your life can spiral in the wrong direction with almost no resistance. One careless choice repeated enough times can quietly dismantle your health, your happiness, and your future. Bad habits never announce their destruction. They whisper it into your life until you wake up years later wondering how you became someone you never meant to be. This is why most people stay trapped. They underestimate how viciously easy it is to fall and how brutally hard it is to climb back up. The battle is unfair, but it is real, and unless you learn to guard yourself, the path of least resistance will quietly lead you to ruin. You can't please everyone. No matter how hard you try, no matter how kind, selfless, or careful you are, someone will always be disappointed, offended, or dissatisfied with you. This truth is brutal because deep down, most of us crave acceptance. We bend, we sacrifice, we contort ourselves to meet expectations, believing that if we just give enough, if we just try harder, we can finally earn universal approval. But the reality is unshakable. You can't please everyone, and the harder you try, the more you lose yourself in the process. For every person who praises you, another will criticize you. For everyone who loves you, another will resent you. Some will judge you harshly no matter what you do, not because of who you are, but because of what they lack. And when you live for their approval, you give away the power to shape your own life. You become a prisoner of shifting expectations, constantly seeking validation from people who will never truly be satisfied. This lesson hurts because it forces you to let go of the fantasy that you can control how others see you. It makes you realize that people project their insecurities, biases, and wounds onto you, and there's nothing you can do to change it. You could sacrifice everything and still not be enough in their eyes. And here lies the sting. The more you try to please everyone, the less anyone respects you, because people don't admire those who betray themselves for approval. They admire those who stand firm, even when it means being disliked. Comfort now creates pain later. In the moment, comfort feels like safety. It feels like relief, like a reward you've earned, like the soft cushion shielding you from the harsh edges of life. But the brutal truth is that comfort, when indulged in too often, becomes the very thing that destroys you. Every shortcut you take, every responsibility you delay, every challenge you avoid, plants a seed of suffering that will grow into pain later. Comfort whispers that you can relax now, that you don't need to push yourself, that tomorrow will always be there. But tomorrow always arrives, and it demands payment with interest. Skip the workout today, and you pay with weakness later. Avoid the difficult conversation, and you pay with resentment later. Put off chasing your dream, and you pay with regret later. Comfort in the short term feels good, but in the long term, it robs you of strength, resilience, and opportunity. Life does not let you escape the cost. It simply shifts it. You either suffer the discomfort of discipline now, or you suffer the far greater pain of decay, failure, and regret later. This lesson cuts deep because we crave ease. Our brains are wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. But every time you give in to that craving, you quietly mortgage your future. And the future always collects. The painful irony is that the comfort you cling to today will be the very reason you struggle tomorrow. The weight you refuse to carry now will return heavier, crueler, and more relentless. Comfort disguises itself as kindness, but it is often betrayal in its purest form. Fear of failure wastes years of potential. Fear of failure is one of the most suffocating prisons a person can live in. It convinces you that it's safer to do nothing than to try and fall short. It whispers that humiliation, rejection, or disappointment would be unbearable, so you sit still, waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. And while you wait, the most precious thing you have, time, slips away. This is the silent tragedy of fear, not that it stops you from failing, but that it robs you of ever knowing what you could have become. Potential is fragile. It doesn't last forever. You only get so many years of youth, energy, and opportunity before doors begin to close. But fear keeps you watching from the sidelines, convincing yourself you'll try tomorrow, or next year, or when you're ready. Days turn into months, months into years, and one day you wake up realizing that fear has stolen entire chapters of your life. And the cruelest part? You never avoided pain. You only traded the sting of failure for the crushing weight of regret. Failure is painful, yes. It hurts to fall short, to stumble, to be seen struggling. But failure is also a teacher, a necessary step on the road to growth. Fear, on the other hand, teaches you nothing. It leaves you empty-handed, with no scars to prove you tried, no lessons to shape you, no victories to call your own. The years you lose to fear are years you never get back, and by the time you realize it, your potential has already slipped through your fingers, wasted in the silence of hesitation. You don't get to choose your family, but you choose your circle. One of life's hardest lessons is realizing that you don't get to choose the family you're born into. You may have been raised by people who hurt you, misunderstood you, or failed to give you the love you needed. You may carry scars from parents who projected their pain onto you, or siblings who never truly saw you. This truth stings because family is supposed to be your foundation, your safe place, but for many, it becomes the first battlefield. But here is where the brutal beauty of life appears. While you can't choose where you come from, you can choose who surrounds you now. You decide who earns a seat at your table, whose voice you let echo in your head, and who you trust with your heart. Blood may tie you to your family, but loyalty, trust, and love are what tie you to your chosen circle. And that circle has the power to shape everything: your habits, your mindset, your sense of worth, and even the limits of what you believe is possible. The pain lies in understanding that love is not always enough to keep toxic family members in your life. Sometimes you must love from a distance or walk away entirely. The freedom comes in realizing that family can be built, not just inherited. The people you choose, the friends who show up, the mentors who guide you, the partners who believe in you, can become more of a family than the one you were given. And in that choice lies both the burden and the gift. You cannot rewrite your origin, but you can rewrite your future by curating the circle that surrounds you. Nobody is coming to save you. It is one of the most gut-wrenching realizations in life. Nobody is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your friends, not your partner, not the government, not some unseen force of fate. You may hope, you may pray, you may beg for someone to swoop in and pull you out of the pit you're in, but they won't. And the longer you wait for rescue, the deeper you sink into helplessness. This truth slices deep because it destroys the illusion of dependency we cling to. As children, we are protected, comforted, carried. Somewhere inside, part of us expects that to last forever, that someone stronger, wiser, more powerful will intervene when life becomes unbearable. But adulthood strips you bare. No one is required to fix your pain, repair your mistakes, or hand you the life you think you deserve. People may care, they may sympathize, but in the end, they are too consumed with their own battles to fight yours. It's a terrifying thought that if you want change, you must create it yourself, that the weight you're carrying won't be lifted unless you lift it, that your dreams will rot if you don't breathe life into them. And yet, hidden in this harshness is a brutal kind of freedom. If nobody is coming to save you, then everything depends on you, your choices, your discipline, your resilience. It hurts to accept, but it also ignites a fire, because the day you stop waiting for rescue is the day you finally pick up the sword yourself and discover you were the hero you needed all along. You are replaceable in almost every context. One of the hardest things to accept is that no matter how special you believe you are, in almost every context, work, friendships, relationships, even family, you are replaceable. Companies can hire someone new to fill your role. Friends can drift away and find others to share their secrets with. Lovers can move on and build lives with different partners. Even within families, roles shift, dynamics change, and the world keeps spinning without you. The harsh reality is that while you may pour your soul into people, places, and projects, the moment you're gone, life adapts. And that realization can feel like a punch to the gut. We all long to be irreplaceable, to believe that what we give is unique, that without us, the structure will collapse. But the truth is, more often than not, the structure bends, absorbs the shock, and carries on as if nothing happened. Your absence might sting for a moment, but eventually it fades into silence. This hurts because it forces you to face how little permanence you truly hold in other people's worlds. You may be treasured, you may be loved, but even love does not always prevent replacement. Yet within this brutal lesson is a strange kind of freedom. If you are replaceable, then your worth cannot be dictated by external validation. It must come from within. It means you stop breaking yourself just to keep roles, titles, or people that would continue without you anyway. The sting of replaceability is real, but so is the clarity it brings. If the world can move on without you, then you should live in a way that matters to you, not just in the spaces that can so easily forget you. The world doesn't reward fairness. It rewards leverage. We're taught as children that fairness is the foundation of life. Share equally, play by the rules, treat others as you wish to be treated. But when you step into the real world, you're hit with a brutal truth. Fairness doesn't determine who wins. Leverage does. The world does not reward you because you worked the hardest, suffered the longest, or played the most honorably. It rewards those who hold power, resources, connections, or knowledge that others need. It rewards those who know how to position themselves where their value cannot be ignored. This realization feels cruel because it shatters the illusion of justice. You'll see people who cut corners rising higher than those who followed every rule. You'll watch leaders protect the powerful while the powerless are left to struggle. You'll realize that being good, kind, and fair doesn't guarantee you respect. It only guarantees you'll be taken advantage of if you lack leverage. The world bends not to morality, but to strength and influence. Leverage is what allows you to walk into a room and be heard instead of dismissed. It's what ensures your hard work translates into reward instead of exploitation. Without it, you can be endlessly talented and still overlooked, endlessly giving and still discarded. This doesn't mean fairness is meaningless. It means fairness is fragile in a world built on advantage. And the day you accept this, you stop waiting for justice to find you. You start building leverage of your own through skills, networks, or relentless persistence, because only then will the world have no choice but to pay attention. Forgiveness doesn't mean trust. Forgiveness is often seen as the noble path, the ultimate act of letting go, and in many ways it is. To forgive is to release yourself from the poison of resentment, to stop letting another person's actions chain you to bitterness. But here's the brutal truth. Forgiveness does not automatically restore trust. You can forgive someone for hurting you, but that does not mean you should hand them the same access to your heart, your time, or your life ever again. Trust is not a right. It is earned slowly through consistency, honesty, and accountability. The sting comes when you realize that people can apologize with tears in their eyes, swear they've changed, and still betray you the moment it benefits them. Forgiveness may heal your soul, but trust requires proof, and proof takes time. To confuse the two is to walk blindly back into the fire that burned you before. This truth is painful because we crave reconciliation. We want to believe that if we forgive, the relationship can go back to what it once was. But sometimes forgiveness is not a bridge, it's a boundary. It's saying, I no longer carry hate for you, but I also no longer give you the power to hurt me again. That distinction is everything. Forgiveness cleanses you, trust protects you, and when you understand the difference, you stop feeling guilty for keeping the doors of your heart guarded, because real peace is not found in letting everyone back in. It's in forgiving freely while choosing carefully who you ever let close again. Ignoring problems makes them worse. Problems don't disappear just because you refuse to look at them. They don't dissolve with silence, denial, or distraction. They grow in the dark, feeding on your avoidance, waiting patiently until they're too big to ignore. The harsh truth is that every problem you turn your back on only sharpens its teeth. The bills you don't open multiply. The conversation you avoid festers into resentment. The health issue you brush aside evolves into something deadly. What begins as small and manageable becomes monstrous when left unchecked. Ignoring problems feels easier in the moment. It spares you from discomfort, confrontation, and fear. But comfort is an illusion, because while you hide, the problem grows stronger, and by the time you face it, the cost is heavier than it ever needed to be. The sting comes when you realize you could have acted early, could have spared yourself years of damage, but instead chose to delay until it consumed you. This lesson is brutal because it exposes your own complicity. Life will hand you struggles, but it's your avoidance that turns them into disasters. Every moment you pretend it's not there, the problem claims a larger piece of your peace, your energy, your future. And there comes a day when you can no longer outrun it. You're forced to face a storm that you allowed to grow. The world doesn't forgive avoidance, it punishes it. Problems demand to be confronted, and if you don't confront them when they whisper, They will return when they roar. People will betray you. No matter how careful you are, no matter how much loyalty you give, no matter how pure your intentions, at some point in life, someone will betray you. It could be a friend you trusted with your secrets, a partner you believed would never leave, or a colleague you thought was on your side. The knife doesn't always come from enemies. It almost always comes from the people you let closest to your heart. And that is why betrayal cuts so deeply. It isn't just about what was done to you. It's about the shattering of the illusion that you were safe in their hands. The sting of betrayal lingers long after the act itself. You replay conversations, moments, promises, searching for signs you missed. You question not just them, but yourself. Was I blind? Was I foolish? Was I not enough? The pain corrodes your trust, making every future relationship feel fragile, every bond suspicious. That's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't just break what was, it poisons what could be. But betrayal is not rare. It is a part of human nature. People are driven by fear, weakness, selfishness, or desire. And when pressed, even the ones you love most may choose themselves over you. Accepting this doesn't make it hurt less, but it makes it less shocking. To know betrayal is inevitable is to stop expecting perfection from human loyalty. It's a scar every soul will carry, and though it hardens you, it also teaches you who deserves to stand close to your heart and who never did. Talent is wasted without consistency. Talent dazzles people at first glance. It makes you stand out, draws admiration, and convinces others you are destined for greatness. But talent alone is a fragile spark, easily extinguished if it isn't fueled by something stronger. That something is consistency. Without it, talent withers into nothing more than wasted potential. The world is full of brilliant singers who never recorded a song, gifted writers who never finished a book, natural athletes who never trained, and sharp minds that never applied themselves long enough to create impact. The brutal truth is that consistency beats talent when talent refuses to show up. Discipline outlasts inspiration. Hard work, repeated day after day, builds momentum that raw ability can never replace. Talent may give you a head start, but if you can't push through boredom, setbacks, and the grind of repetition, you'll be passed by those who simply refuse to quit. And when the years pass, your talent becomes nothing more than a memory of what could have been. This lesson hurts because talent feels like a gift, and gifts feel permanent. But talent fades when ignored, skills dull, opportunities dry up. The world doesn't reward what you could do, it rewards what you actually do. And without consistency, even the brightest potential turns into dust. Consistency is unglamorous. It asks you to show up on days you don't want to push forward when no one is watching, to build when no one is applauding. But it is the only bridge between talent and greatness. Without it, talent is nothing more than wasted brilliance that dies in silence. Discipline feels like pain until it feels like freedom. Discipline is brutal in the beginning. Waking up before dawn when your body begs for sleep, dragging yourself to the gym when every muscle aches, forcing yourself to study, save, or work when you'd rather indulge in comfort. It all feels like punishment. Discipline is resistance against your weakest impulses, and resistance always feels like pain. That's why so many quit before it transforms them. They only feel the sting of sacrifice, not realizing what waits on the other side. But with time, the pain begins to shift. What once felt like restriction begins to feel like power. The early mornings turn into confidence, the workouts into strength, the studying into mastery, the saving into freedom. Discipline creates order in a world of chaos, and that order becomes liberation. You are no longer a slave to your cravings, distractions, or emotions. You control them. Where others are trapped in cycles of procrastination and regret, you move forward with quiet strength. The sting of this truth is that most people never push past the painful stage. They want results without sacrifice, freedom without the grind. They quit before discipline rewards them, so they never experience the freedom it brings. And yet, for those who endure, discipline becomes the ultimate paradox. The very thing that once felt like chains becomes the key that unlocks every door. Pain first, freedom later. That's the price. And those willing to pay it end up living a life that feels untouchable. Someone always has it worse than you, and better. No matter where you stand in life, there is always someone suffering more deeply than you, and someone thriving beyond what you can imagine. This reality is sobering because it destroys the illusion of extremes. We are never the most fortunate and never the most broken. Someone out there is buried under a weight you couldn't endure, and someone else is soaring to heights you may never reach. It's a truth that humbles and unsettles at the same time. When you think your problems are unbearable, remember there are people clawing through pain, poverty, and loss far greater than yours. This doesn't erase your suffering, but it strips away the entitlement that convinces you life has singled you out unfairly. You are not the only one hurting. You are not uniquely cursed. Pain is universal, and perspective reminds you that yours is not the worst story being written. Yet the same is true in the opposite direction. While you struggle, someone else is thriving. While you settle, someone else is breaking through. While you make excuses, someone else is taking the leap you fear. That truth stings because it forces you to see your own limitations, not as inevitabilities, but as choices. This lesson cuts because it crushes both arrogance and self-pity. It tells you to stop wallowing, stop comparing, and stop pretending you are either the most cursed or the most blessed. You exist in the middle, like everyone else, and that's where the fight for meaning begins. Death can come at any moment. The most terrifying truth of life is also the one we try hardest to ignore. Death can come at any moment. It does not ask permission. It does not wait until you're ready, and it does not care about your plans, your dreams, or the promises you've made. 1 second you are here, breathing, laughing, scrolling, planning for tomorrow, and the next, everything is gone. It is brutal because it shatters the illusion of control we cling to. We act as though time is infinite, as though tomorrow is guaranteed, as though we can always say later, but later is never promised. Every accident on the road, every silent heart attack, every unexpected call in the middle of the night is proof of how fragile this existence is. And yet, most of us live as if death only happens to other people, as if we have some secret immunity. We procrastinate the things that matter. We hold grudges. We postpone love. We waste days drowning in distractions. Then one day death strikes, not just for us, but for someone we love, and we are left choking on regret. The emotional sting of this lesson is unbearable because it forces you to confront how easily everything can vanish. The smile you didn't return, the words you never said, the risks you never took, all of it can be stolen in an instant. And while that truth feels suffocating, it also makes life unbearably precious. Because when you understand that death waits for no one, you finally see how fragile, fleeting, and irreplaceable every single moment really is. Success can isolate you. When you dream of success, you imagine admiration, support, and celebration. You picture yourself surrounded by people who are proud, inspired, and loyal. But what few tell you is that success often brings isolation. The higher you climb, the fewer people can relate to you. The struggles, sacrifices, and responsibilities that come with achievement create a distance between you and the people who once felt closest. The friends who cheered for you at the start may grow silent when you surpass them. The same people who once wanted the best for you may quietly resent you for getting it. The sting of success is realizing that not everyone will be happy when you win. Some will drift away because your life no longer mirrors theirs. Others will mask envy as backhanded praise. Even those who love you may unconsciously pull back, unable to understand the weight that comes with being at the top. You find yourself surrounded by people, yet lonelier than you ever were before. Success sets you apart, and that separation can feel like exile. What makes this truth so brutal is that it shatters the fantasy that achievement guarantees belonging. You learn that the applause fades quickly, but the distance remains. People start to see you not as a friend, but as a comparison, a standard, a reminder of what they haven't done. And so you carry your victories alone, smiling for the world while feeling the quiet ache of solitude. Success can elevate you, but in doing so, it can also place you on an island, admired, envied, but often alone. Popularity is temporary. Popularity feels intoxicating. The rush of being noticed, admired, and celebrated. The applause, the attention, the validation. It convinces you that you matter more, that you've arrived, that you are untouchable. But popularity is fleeting. The same crowd that cheers for you today will move on tomorrow. The spotlight is never permanent, and no amount of charm, beauty, or achievement can keep it from shifting. What feels like love is often just fascination, and fascination always fades. This truth cuts deep because we are wired to crave acceptance. Being popular makes you feel chosen, desired, even loved. But what most mistake for love is really convenience. People admire you while you're useful, relevant, or entertaining. The moment you falter, the moment someone shinier appears, the crowd disappears. Yesterday's star becomes today's shadow, replaced without a second thought. Popularity doesn't protect you. It exposes how shallow human attention can be. The pain of realizing this is heavy. It means that the adoration you've built your identity on can vanish overnight, leaving you questioning who you are without the noise of applause. It means the people you thought were only loyal to the version of you that benefited them. And it forces you to face the emptiness of chasing something that cannot last. But within that sting lies clarity. If popularity is temporary, then it cannot be your foundation. What endures is not how many people clap for you, but who stood beside you when the clapping stopped. Popularity dies, but character and loyalty are the only currencies that survive time. Jealousy reveals more about you than about them. Jealousy feels like fire in the veins, a burning resentment towards someone who has what you crave. But the brutal truth is that jealousy has little to do with them and everything to do with you. When envy flares, it is a mirror reflecting your own insecurities, unfulfilled desires, and silent frustrations. It exposes the places in your life where you feel lacking, the dreams you abandoned, the potential you never pursued. Their success doesn't create your jealousy. It only shines a light on the wounds you've been avoiding. We tell ourselves stories to ease the sting. We convince ourselves they don't deserve it, that they cheated, that they had an unfair advantage. But beneath every excuse is the raw fact that what you resent in them is what you secretly wish for yourself. Jealousy reveals your deepest hunger, the life you imagine but have not yet claimed. That's why it's so painful. It's not just about them winning, it's about you recognizing where you've lost. This truth hurts because it forces you to turn inward instead of outward. You can't hide behind their achievements or their luck. Jealousy calls out your procrastination, your fear, your excuses. It forces you to ask why you aren't chasing your own potential with the same energy you spend resenting theirs. The sting of envy lingers because it exposes the gap between who you are and who you could be. And until you face that truth, jealousy will keep reminding you of the life you haven't yet had the courage to build. Nobody is too busy. You're just not a priority. It stings like fire to realize that when someone says they're too busy, what they really mean is that you're not high enough on their list of priorities. Time is the most limited resource every person has, and we all spend it on what matters most to us. If someone wanted to call you, they would. If they wanted to see you, they would. If they truly valued your presence, they would carve out even a sliver of time, no matter how chaotic their life is. The truth is not that they are drowning in responsibilities. It's that you don't matter to them as much as you wish you did. This lesson hurts because it forces you to face your place in someone else's life. You replay excuses, convincing yourself they must be overwhelmed or that timing is just off. But deep down, you know, people always make time for what they want. They cancel other plans for the person they're in love with. They stay up late for the friend they cherish. They sacrifice sleep, money, and comfort when something truly matters to them. If they aren't doing it for you, the reason is simple. You're not the priority. That truth slices at your self-worth because it feels like rejection in its rawest form. It's not that they can't, it's that they won't. And yet, hidden in the pain is clarity. You stop clinging to scraps of attention. You stop excusing neglect disguised as busyness, and you begin to understand that the right people will never be too busy for you, because to them, you'll always be worth the time. Some wounds never fully heal. Time is supposed to heal everything, or at least that's what people say when they don't know what else to offer. But the truth is, some wounds never fully heal. Some losses carve holes so deep that no amount of years, distractions, or new beginnings can completely fill them. The pain dulls, yes. It softens around the edges, grows quieter, less sharp, but it never truly disappears. It lingers like a shadow, waiting in the background, ready to remind you with a scent, a song, a date on the calendar, or even a dream that pulls you back into the moment when everything broke. This truth is brutal because we want closure. We want to believe that if we just wait long enough, the hurt will vanish, that one day we'll wake up and not feel the ache anymore. But life doesn't work that way. Some scars are permanent, not because you are weak, but because what you lost mattered too much to ever forget. The child who never came home, the parent who left too soon, the betrayal that shattered your trust, the trauma that rewired your soul. These things don't vanish with time. They become part of you, and that's the hardest part to accept. Healing doesn't always mean erasing. Sometimes it means carrying the wound with grace, learning how to live around it, how to breathe even when it still hurts. People may expect you to move on, but the truth is, you don't move on. You move forward with the wound stitched into your being. Some pain never leaves. It only teaches you how to live differently. You can't control how others treat you, only how you react. One of the hardest lessons to accept is that no matter how kind, generous, or loving you are, you cannot control how others will treat you. People will misunderstand you, betray you, belittle you, and sometimes hurt you for no reason at all. Their behavior is shaped by their own wounds, insecurities, and choices, and none of that is within your power to change. This truth stings because it strips away the illusion that if you just love enough, give enough, or prove yourself enough, people will respond in kind. The reality is, sometimes they won't, but while you can't control their actions, you always control your response. You choose whether to let cruelty harden you or to let it pass through you without breaking your spirit. You choose whether to waste energy fighting for someone's approval or to walk away with dignity intact. You choose whether to match someone's poison with more poison or to rise above it and protect your peace. That choice is your power, even when everything else feels outside your grasp. The pain of this truth comes from realizing you are powerless to change anyone but yourself. You cannot make someone respect you. You cannot force someone to love you. You cannot demand kindness from a cruel heart. But what you can do is refuse to let their behavior dictate the quality of your life. Their actions may wound you, but your reaction decides if those wounds define you. And in that painful acceptance lies a fierce kind of freedom, the freedom to no longer be at the mercy of others, but to stand unshaken in your own strength. Life goes on after you're gone. It's a haunting reality to accept. When you die, the world will not stop. The sun will rise the next morning. Traffic will still clog the roads. People will still laugh, fight, and chase their dreams. Your absence will leave a hole in some hearts. But even grief eventually softens, and life moves forward without you. This truth is brutal because it forces you to confront how small you really are in the vast flow of existence. You are not the center of the universe. You are a moment in time, destined to fade. We cling to the illusion that our lives carry a permanence, that the bonds we create will somehow anchor us here forever. But death is merciless in its indifference. The workplace that depended on you will replace you. The home you lived in will eventually belong to someone else. Even your name, carried lovingly for a while, will be spoken less and less until it dissolves into silence. Within a few generations, most traces of you will vanish. This realization cuts because it shatters ego. You want to believe your existence matters endlessly, that people will never truly move on. But the truth is they will, because they must. The world doesn't pause for your absence. It adapts. It continues. And yet, within this painful truth lies a sharp reminder. Your time is finite, and the meaning of your life is not in how long you're remembered, but in how deeply you live while you're here. Every second matters, because once you're gone, life will not wait for you. Fear kills more dreams than failure. Failure hurts, but fear is worse, because fear doesn't just bruise you, it paralyzes you. Failure at least comes with lessons, scars, and proof that you tried. Fear leaves you with nothing but what ifs. It whispers in your mind before you even take the first step, convincing you that you'll embarrass yourself, that you're not ready, that you'll never be good enough. And so you wait, you hesitate, you plan endlessly until the opportunity has already passed. The cruel reality is that countless dreams die long before failure ever has the chance to touch them, slaughtered by fear and silence. This truth is devastating because it's invisible. Nobody sees the book you never wrote, the business you never started, the love you never confessed. Nobody mourns the life you could have lived because it never existed. You're left carrying the weight of untold stories and unrealized potential, haunted by the echo of chances you were too afraid to take. And unlike failure, fear doesn't teach, it only steals. We hide behind the illusion that safety is better than risk, that staying comfortable is wiser than stepping into the unknown. But comfort rots into regret. One day you wake up and realize the years you thought you had to try are gone, and the only thing standing between you and the life you wanted was fear itself. The brutal truth is that failure wounds, but fear buries you alive, and while failure fades, fear lingers forever, leaving you chained to the dreams you never had the courage to chase. Your feelings don't change facts. Feelings are powerful. They shape the way you see the world, dictate your decisions, and fuel your actions. But as overwhelming as they can be, your feelings don't change facts. You can feel like you're worthless, but that doesn't mean you are. You can feel like someone loves you, but that doesn't mean they do. You can feel like the world is against you, but reality doesn't bend to your emotions. Facts remain cold, unyielding, and indifferent to how much they hurt. This truth cuts deep because emotions often feel more real than logic. When you're angry, it feels justified, even if you're wrong. When you're heartbroken, it feels permanent, even though time will prove otherwise. When you're afraid, the danger feels certain, even if it exists only in your head. Feelings make liars out of us. They convince us the world is as we perceive it in that moment, when in reality, nothing outside of us has changed. The sting comes when you realize how much of your life you've wasted believing your feelings were the truth. How many opportunities did you avoid because you felt unready? How many relationships did you ruin because you felt unloved when love was actually there? How many dreams did you bury because you felt incapable when the only barrier was fear? It's brutal to admit, but your feelings don't rewrite reality. Facts don't care about your moods, your doubts, or your pain. The world will keep turning, whether you feel like you can handle it or not. And until you learn to separate emotion from truth, you will keep losing battles that were never real to begin with. People remember mistakes longer than victories. You can pour years into building something remarkable, and one mistake can stain it forever. That's the cruel nature of memory. Our minds are wired to cling to pain and error more than to triumph. You could succeed 100 times, but the moment you stumble, that stumble becomes the story others tell. The promotion you earned, the work you perfected, the kindness you gave, all of it can be eclipsed by a single misstep. Victories are celebrated briefly. Mistakes are whispered about endlessly. This truth cuts so deeply because it feels unjust. You work tirelessly to do things right, yet the world fixates on the one time you did it wrong. You can save 10 lives and lose one, and people will remember the one. You can be loyal for years and slip once, and the slip is what defines you. Our failures stick because they stand out. They shock, they disappoint, they trigger judgment, and people love judgment. It makes them feel safer, better, superior. The pain here isn't just external, it's internal. We replay our own mistakes far longer than our victories too. Shame burns hotter than pride ever does. That's why this truth feels brutal. You realize that both others and yourself are wired to hold on to your flaws longer than your wins. But buried inside the sting is a revelation. If mistakes linger longer, then your character must be stronger. You cannot erase them, but you can outlive them by continuing forward. The world may not forget your mistakes, but if you refuse to stop, they'll be forced to remember your persistence too. Tomorrow isn't promised. We live as though tomorrow is guaranteed, as if the next sunrise is a certainty owed to us. We make plans months in advance. We postpone dreams, we delay apologies, and we push love aside with the excuse that there will always be more time. But the brutal truth is tomorrow isn't promised. Death does not give warnings, and fate does not negotiate. For some, tonight is the last chapter, and they will never see the morning they assumed would come. This truth is devastating because it dismantles the illusion of control. You can eat healthy, exercise, avoid risks, and still vanish in an instant. A car accident, a sudden illness, a random twist of fate, and everything is gone. Meanwhile, the world continues moving, indifferent to the fact that your story has ended. Every dream you put off, every word you never said, every risk you avoided dies with you, never to be reclaimed. And yet, most people live as if time is infinite. They trade days for meaningless distractions. They swallow their words. They silence their passions. They settle into routines as though life owes them decades. But the clock is merciless, and it never reveals how close you are to the end. What makes this truth cut so deeply is the weight of regret, not for the things you did, but for the things you never dared to do. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and every day you waste is a gamble against the one resource you can never win back. Most opportunities never come twice. Life has a cruel way of offering doors that open only once. An introduction to someone who could change your path, a chance to take a risk, an invitation that seemed small at the time, but could have altered everything. These moments rarely return. Most opportunities never come twice, and when you let them slip, they vanish into the fog of what could have been. That's the brutality of it. Opportunities don't announce themselves as life-changing when they arrive. They appear ordinary, inconvenient, or even frightening. Only in hindsight do you see their weight, and by then, they are gone. The sting comes from realizing how many of those chances you ignored, the job you didn't apply for because you doubted yourself, the relationship you didn't pursue because you were afraid of rejection, the move you postponed because it wasn't the perfect time. Opportunities don't wait for your readiness. They don't circle back until you feel comfortable. They slip through your fingers the moment you hesitate, and life does not guarantee a second offering. What makes this lesson devastating is the permanence of regret. You can fail and try again, but you cannot relive a missed chance. That person will move on. That moment will pass. That door will close, and you're left haunted by the silence of a life you might have lived had you only said yes. It's why the most successful people act before they feel ready. They understand that hesitation is often the true killer because most opportunities, once lost, are lost forever. The past can't be changed, only accepted. The past has a cruel way of holding you hostage. You replay conversations in your head, rewrite endings in your imagination, and torture yourself with endless what-ifs. If only you had spoken up sooner. If only you hadn't made that mistake. If only you had chosen differently. But no matter how much you replay it, the truth remains the same. The past can't be changed, only accepted. Every word spoken, every action taken, every choice made, it's already carved into time, sealed beyond your reach. This truth hurts because regret is heavy and memory is merciless. Your mind drags you back to the moments you most want to escape, forcing you to relive them as though repetition could somehow undo them. You imagine alternate realities where you were braver, wiser, kinder, where things worked out the way you hoped. But those worlds don't exist, and the more you cling to them, the more you bleed in the present. Acceptance feels like surrender at first, like admitting defeat. But it isn't weakness. It's the only path forward. Until you stop clawing at the past, it will keep its grip on you. The pain of what's already done may never vanish, but you can choose to stop feeding it with your obsession. You can choose to learn instead of endlessly rewrite. The past is a locked door. You cannot open it, you cannot fix it, and you cannot walk back through it. But you can stop standing there, pounding your fists against it, while life waits for you to turn around and face what's still ahead. Growth feels uncomfortable. Growth is never gentle. It tears you apart before it rebuilds you. It demands that you step into the unknown, face your fears, and abandon the comfort of the familiar. It feels like losing pieces of yourself, like walking through fire, like breaking before you can rise again. That's why so many resist it. We crave progress, yet we cling to what feels safe, even when it's suffocating us. The cruel truth is that real growth doesn't feel like triumph in the moment. It feels like pain, confusion, and disorientation. When you grow, you outgrow. You shed friendships, identities, and versions of yourself you once loved. You confront truths about who you are and who you've been, truths that sting more than lies ever could. You wrestle with doubt, you stumble, you fail, and you wonder if you're making a mistake. Everything in you wants to retreat back to comfort because comfort feels easier, but comfort is a trap. It keeps you stagnant, while discomfort is the birthplace of transformation. The pain of growth is brutal because it feels wrong. Your mind screams for stability, but your soul aches for expansion. You feel torn between who you were and who you are becoming. And yet, it is only in that discomfort that your true strength is forged. Growth is supposed to feel heavy, awkward, and raw because you are stretching into a version of yourself that has never existed before. The discomfort isn't a sign you're failing. It's the proof you're evolving. You can't win every battle. No matter how strong, determined, or relentless you are, there will be battles you cannot win. Some fights will drain you until you have nothing left, and still, the outcome won't bend in your favor. It doesn't matter how righteous your cause is, how hard you worked, or how much you sacrifice. Life will remind you, sometimes cruelly, that not every war ends with victory. This truth is brutal because it collides with the belief that persistence guarantees triumph. You're taught to never give up, to fight until the end, to believe that sheer willpower can bend reality. But there are storms too big to stop, people too stubborn to change, circumstances too heavy to control, and when you refuse to accept this, you bleed yourself dry in battles that were lost before they began. The sting of this realization is not just in losing, but in knowing that loss is unavoidable. You cannot save every relationship. You cannot protect everyone you love. You cannot conquer every obstacle in your path. Some dreams will die despite your effort, and some outcomes will break your heart no matter how fiercely you resisted. What makes this truth so devastating is that it forces humility. It strips away illusions of control and teaches you that strength is not just about fighting, but about knowing when to surrender. Because sometimes survival means walking away, accepting defeat, and conserving your fire for the battles that can still be won. And in that painful acceptance, you learn that loss is not always the end. It's part of the cost of living. Your reputation is fragile. Your reputation takes years to build and only seconds to destroy. It is one of the most fragile currencies you will ever carry. Delicate, unstable, and frighteningly easy to lose. You can spend decades proving your reliability, loyalty, and integrity, and still watch it all shatter with a single mistake. One careless word, one reckless decision. People rarely remember the 1,000 times you did right. They remember the one time you slipped. And once trust cracks, it almost never returns to its original form. The brutality of this truth is that your reputation doesn't even belong entirely to you. It exists in the minds of others. It is shaped not just by your actions, but by perception, rumor, and the stories people choose to tell about you. A lie can spread faster than the truth. A misunderstanding can stain your name before you even have a chance to defend yourself. And no matter how hard you try to explain, people will often cling to the version of you that feeds their judgment. This fragility forces you into a painful awareness. Everything you do leaves a mark. One betrayal overshadows years of loyalty. One slip of anger outweighs months of kindness. The world rarely balances the scales fairly, and yet the sharp edge of this lesson cuts deeper because it reveals how much is at stake in every choice you make. Your reputation is not indestructible, it is glass, and the moment it cracks, no matter how hard you try to piece it back together, everyone will always see the fracture. Gratitude is rare, entitlement is common. One of the harshest truths about people is how quickly they forget what they've been given. Acts of kindness that once felt life-changing are often taken for granted the moment they become routine. Sacrifices you make in silence are overlooked as though they were expected all along. Gratitude, the acknowledgement that someone went out of their way for you, is rare. What you'll encounter far more often is entitlement, the belief that your effort, your love, your generosity was simply owed to them. This stings because it exposes just how self-centered people can be. You pour yourself out for someone, and instead of thanks, they demand more. You give them opportunities, and instead of humility, they act as if you merely delivered what they deserved. Entitlement blinds people to the weight others carry, erasing appreciation and replacing it with expectation. And the more you give, the more they assume it's their right to receive. The brutality of this truth is that it leaves you feeling invisible. Your kindness becomes background noise. Your effort becomes unremarkable. You begin to wonder if you should stop giving altogether, because the gratitude you crave seems so rare it almost doesn't exist. But that is the nature of human desire. It constantly shifts, always wanting more, rarely pausing to acknowledge what's already been received. Gratitude humbles, entitlement consumes. Most people will choose the latter, not out of malice, but out of habit. And until you accept this, you will bleed yourself dry, waiting for a thank you that may never come. Sacrifices are mandatory, not optional. Life demands a price from everyone, and that price is sacrifice. You cannot have everything, no matter how much you want to believe you can. To chase one dream means abandoning another. To build success means giving up comfort. To create a strong body means surrendering laziness. To cultivate love means sacrificing ego. Every path forward costs something, and pretending otherwise is the surest way to stay trapped in mediocrity. The sting of this truth is that most people live believing they can avoid sacrifice. They think they can have the relationship without vulnerability, the wealth without discipline, the growth without discomfort. They cling to both comfort and ambition, unwilling to release one for the other, and in doing so, they end up with nothing meaningful at all. The world does not reward those who refuse sacrifice. It punishes them with regret. What makes this reality so brutal is that the sacrifices are rarely easy. They cut into your desires, your habits, your comfort zones. Sometimes you sacrifice sleep for success. Sometimes you sacrifice temporary happiness for long-term fulfillment. Sometimes you sacrifice people you love because their presence costs you your peace. And it hurts. It always hurts. But what's even more painful is realizing that avoiding sacrifice is itself a sacrifice. You're just giving up your future instead of your present. The truth is simple, merciless, and unavoidable. You will pay a price either way. The only question is whether you will sacrifice now to build the life you want, or sacrifice later by living with the weight of what you could have been. Some people you trust the most will hurt you, the deepest. The harshest wounds don't come from strangers. They come from the ones you let closest to your heart, the people you trusted with your secrets, your vulnerabilities, your loyalty, and your love are often the very ones who cut you the deepest. Betrayal from them doesn't just wound your body or your pride, it pierces your soul because you never expected the knife to come from their hand. This truth is brutal because trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. You believe that love, friendship, or loyalty will protect you. You open yourself, you lean on them, you let your guard down. And in doing so, you make yourself vulnerable to the kind of pain that only they could cause. When they lie, when they leave, when they break promises or turn on you, the pain is unbearable, not just because of what they did, but because of who they were to you. The scar they leave lingers long after the wound closes. You begin to question your judgment, to doubt your worth, to harden yourself against closeness. You replay the moments, searching for warning signs you missed, punishing yourself for trusting too deeply. And the cruelest part is that sometimes they never even see the devastation they cause. This lesson cuts because it teaches you that love and loyalty are never guarantees of safety. The deeper the bond, the sharper the blade when it breaks. And though it makes you cautious, even cold, it also forces you to face the terrifying truth. Trust is always a risk, and the ones who can love you the most are also the ones who can destroy you. Self-pity solves nothing. When life knocks you down, self-pity feels seductive. It whispers that you deserve to wallow, that the world has wronged you, that it's unfair and cruel and stacked against you. And maybe all of that is true, but the harsh truth is that self-pity solves nothing. It doesn't heal wounds. It doesn't fix problems. It doesn't move you forward. It only traps you in the quicksand of your own misery, sinking you deeper the longer you stay there. The more you indulge it, the more powerless you become, because self-pity demands your attention while offering you nothing in return. The sting of this lesson is how comfortable self-pity feels in the moment. It's warm, it's easy, it absolves you of responsibility. You tell yourself it's not your fault, that you had no chance, that the world is against you. And while some of that may be true, the longer you sit in that narrative, the more life passes you by. The brutal reality is that nobody is coming to pull you out. People may sympathize for a moment, but eventually they move on with their own lives, leaving you trapped in your own despair. What makes this truth hurt so much is that self-pity feels like it should help. It feels like care, like validation, like healing, but it isn't. It is poison disguised as comfort. Every second spent feeling sorry for yourself is a second stolen from the fight you could be giving. And when the years slip away, you'll realize self-pity didn't protect you. It only wasted the time you'll never get back. Nobody respects those who don't respect themselves. Respect begins within. If you don't value yourself, if you constantly belittle your worth, tolerate mistreatment, and shrink to fit into places you don't belong, the world will mirror that back to you. People take cues from how you carry yourself. If you show them you don't respect your own boundaries, they'll assume it's fine to cross them. If you demonstrate that you don't believe in your own voice, they'll stop listening. Nobody is going to hand you respect out of pity. If you don't claim it for yourself, it won't exist. This truth is brutal because many convince themselves that kindness, selflessness, or sacrifice will earn them love and respect. They think enduring abuse proves loyalty, that staying quiet proves humility, that giving endlessly will eventually be reciprocated. But the opposite happens. People begin to see you as weak, as someone to exploit rather than protect. The more you disrespect yourself, the more invisible you become. It's a painful realization. You've been teaching people how to treat you all along. Every time you accepted less than you deserved, every time you let someone walk over you, every time you chose silence instead of self-respect, you were writing the script others would follow. And once they see you as someone who doesn't respect themselves, their respect for you dies too. The world rarely elevates those who refuse to elevate themselves. Respect is not begged for. It is commanded by the way you carry yourself, the boundaries you set, and the value you refuse to compromise. Without self-respect, you are asking others to give you what you've already denied yourself. Lies eventually catch up. Every lie feels small in the beginning, harmless even, a way to protect yourself, to avoid conflict, to make life a little easier. It slips off the tongue and disappears, giving you a temporary escape. But lies are never truly gone. They linger like shadows, building one on top of the other until they form a weight too heavy to carry. The truth is relentless, and no matter how carefully you hide it, it has a way of clawing its way to the surface. This reality is brutal because lies often reward you in the short term. They buy you time, save you from embarrassment, protect your reputation, or get you what you want. But with each lie, you create cracks in the foundation of your life. Trust erodes, anxiety grows, you live with the constant fear of being exposed, and that fear eats away at your peace. The longer the lie lives, the sharper its teeth become. When it finally catches you, and it always does, the destruction is far worse than if you had faced the truth from the beginning. What makes this lesson sting is that it doesn't only apply to the lies you tell others, it applies to the ones you tell yourself. The excuses, the justifications, the denial of your own flaws. Sooner or later, reality confronts you. You can't run forever. And when it does, the pain of self-deception cuts deeper than any judgment from others. Lies may offer comfort, but it is a comfort laced with poison. The truth may hurt in the moment, but the lie destroys in the end. And no matter how fast you run, it will always catch up. Ignorance is expensive. What you don't know will cost you, sometimes in money, sometimes in time, sometimes in opportunities you'll never get back. Ignorance may feel harmless because you can't see the damage right away, but its price always finds you. The contract you didn't read drains your savings. The health symptoms you ignored spiral into catastrophe. The financial lesson you refuse to learn leaves you trapped in debt. The world punishes ignorance without mercy because reality doesn't care whether you understood the rules. You pay the cost either way. This truth is brutal because ignorance often masquerades as comfort. It feels easier not to know, to avoid the hard truths, to close your eyes to the things that scare you. But every blind spot becomes a trap. Every refusal to learn becomes a weight. And by the time you finally see the consequences, the price has already multiplied. The law doesn't excuse you for not knowing it. Your body doesn't forgive you for not understanding it. The market doesn't pause for you to catch up. The sting comes when you realize ignorance isn't neutral. It's a debt-building interest in the background of your life. And the longer you avoid paying attention, the heavier the payment will be when it comes due. Knowledge requires effort, humility, and sometimes pain, but ignorance demands far more, because the world always collects what you owe, and those who refuse to learn are always the ones who lose the most. You can outgrow people you thought were forever. One of the most heartbreaking truths in life is that you can outgrow people you once believed would be by your side forever. Friends you swore would stand at your wedding, partners you imagined building a lifetime with, even family members you thought you could never drift from, all can become strangers as you grow, change, and evolve. The bond that once felt unshakable can wither, not always from betrayal or anger, but simply because life pulls you in different directions. The pain lies in how natural it feels at first. You laugh together, you share secrets, you survive storms side by side, and it seems impossible that anything could ever separate you. But slowly, without warning, the conversations thin. Their world no longer matches yours, their values no longer align, and what once connected you begins to feel like distance. You keep trying to hold on, hoping the pieces will fit again, but the truth is, they don't, and letting go feels like ripping out a part of yourself. This lesson stings because it attacks one of our deepest desires, that some people are permanent, that forever is real, but growth demands change, and not everyone grows at the same pace. Some will stay behind, some will take different paths, and some will no longer fit the version of you that emerges. Outgrowing someone doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means the bond no longer serves the person you're becoming. The cruel truth is that forever is often temporary, and the people you once couldn't imagine life without can end up being just memories you carry. Not everyone matures at the same pace. One of the most painful truths you'll face is realizing that people do not grow together. Some evolve quickly, shedding old habits, chasing growth, and stepping into responsibility, while others cling to immaturity, living as though time has no consequences. Not everyone matures at the same pace, and this disparity can tear relationships apart. You might find yourself outgrowing friends who once felt inseparable, no longer entertained by the same jokes, no longer satisfied by the same reckless patterns. You might watch people you love sabotage themselves, stuck in cycles you've already left behind. This truth hurts because it forces you to accept that effort, love, and loyalty cannot accelerate someone else's growth. You can beg them to see, to change, to catch up to the version of life you're reaching for, but maturity cannot be borrowed. It must be chosen, and many never choose it. Some stay trapped in adolescence long into adulthood, chasing thrills instead of building futures, blaming others instead of taking responsibility, waiting for life to fix itself instead of stepping up. The emotional sting comes when you realize you can't hold on to everyone. You can't force growth on those who aren't ready, and if you try to slow yourself down for their sake, you end up shrinking. You either keep climbing or you stay stuck with them, and neither choice is without pain. What makes this so brutal is the inevitability. You will outgrow people you never thought you would, not because you stopped loving them, but because life pulled you onto separate timelines. Some will catch up eventually, some never will. Arrogance destroys more than ignorance. Ignorance is dangerous, but arrogance is lethal. Ignorance means not knowing, something that can be corrected with learning, humility, and experience. But arrogance is worse. It is the belief that you already know everything, that you are untouchable, that you have nothing left to learn. Arrogance slams the door on growth, blinds you to your flaws, and pushes away the very people who could guide you. It is not just a lack of knowledge, it is a refusal to even see the need for it. This truth stings because arrogance often grows out of success. The moment you achieve something, it whispers in your ear, "You did it, you're better, you're above them now." And in chasing that illusion, you become careless. You stop listening, you stop questioning, you stop evolving. Entire empires, careers, and relationships have been destroyed not by ignorance, but by arrogance, by the refusal to admit weakness, the denial of responsibility, the obsession with being right instead of being wise. Ignorance is forgivable. People understand mistakes born from not knowing. But arrogance poisons trust because it insults and diminishes others. Nobody wants to follow someone who sneers at them. Nobody wants to love someone who refuses to bend. And so arrogance isolates you, leaving you with nothing but your own hollow pride. The pain of this lesson lies in its mirror. You must ask yourself not just what you don't know, but where you've grown blind with ego, because arrogance doesn't just stop your growth. It burns down everything you've built, and by the time you realize it, the ashes are all that remain. Being busy isn't the same as being productive. Busyness is a seductive lie. It makes you feel important, accomplished, even superior, as if the sheer weight of your packed schedule is proof of your value. But the harsh truth is that being busy isn't the same as being productive. You can spend your entire day running from one task to another, exhausted by nightfall, and still be no closer to the life you want. Activity does not equal progress. Motion is not the same as movement forward. This truth stings because busyness disguises itself as success. You tell yourself you're working hard, you're grinding, you're sacrificing, but deep down you know much of what you're doing is noise. Endless meetings, shallow tasks, distractions dressed up as obligations. They drain your energy, consume your time, and leave you with nothing of real value to show for it. Productivity, on the other hand, demands focus. It forces you to choose what truly matters and cut away everything else. And that is terrifying because it requires discipline, clarity, and the courage to say no. The emotional blow comes when you realize how much of your life you've wasted confusing busyness for progress. Years lost chasing to-do lists instead of dreams, countless days spent maintaining rather than building. The people who get ahead are not the busiest, they are the most effective. The world doesn't reward exhaustion, it rewards results. And if you keep drowning in busyness without direction, you'll wake up one day and realize you worked yourself to death without ever actually living. A good name takes years to build and seconds to ruin. Reputation is one of the most delicate assets you will ever own, and its fragility is merciless. You can spend years, even decades, crafting a name that stands for integrity, loyalty, and trust, and in just one reckless moment, it can all come crashing down. One mistake, one bad decision, one careless slip is enough to stain what you've built, because people rarely measure you by the full story. They remember the cracks. It doesn't matter how long you've been consistent, the world clings to your failures far more tightly than your successes. The brutality of this truth lies in how unforgiving people are. They don't see the countless sacrifices it took to build your reputation, the nights you stayed disciplined, the times you bit your tongue, the moments you chose the harder road. All of it can be eclipsed by one rumor, one headline, one betrayal of your own values, and once suspicion settles in, it never fully leaves. Trust, once broken, is like shattered glass. No matter how carefully you try to piece it back together, the cracks remain visible. This reality hurts because it demands constant vigilance. You cannot afford to be careless with your character because your name follows you everywhere, into rooms you've never walked, into conversations you'll never hear. And while it can take a lifetime to earn respect, it takes only seconds to lose it. The weight of that responsibility is heavy, but it is also unescapable. Your good name is your shadow, fragile and precious, and once it's ruined, it rarely ever returns to what it was. The world doesn't pause for your pain. When tragedy strikes, when heartbreak rips through your chest, when grief leaves you unable to breathe, it feels impossible that life could simply go on, yet it does. The world doesn't stop because you're hurting. The sun rises, traffic fills the streets, deadlines approach. People laugh, argue, shop, and scroll, unaware of the storm tearing you apart inside. Your pain feels monumental to you, but to the world, it's just another unseen fracture among billions. And that is one of the cruelest truths of existence. Your suffering will never slow down the clock. This realization can feel like betrayal. You want the world to notice, to pause with you, to recognize that something sacred has shattered. But instead, everything keeps moving, indifferent to your brokenness. Bills still demand payment, work still demands performance, responsibilities still pile up, merciless and unmoved by the weight on your chest. Life refuses to wait for you to heal. The brutality of this truth is in how isolating it feels. You're screaming inside while the world hums along as if nothing has happened. And yet, within this cruelty lies a lesson. You cannot afford to wait for the world to accommodate your wounds. You must learn to move forward while carrying them, to keep walking even when it feels impossible, to find a way to stitch yourself together while everything around you races on. The world doesn't pause for your pain because it can't, and as merciless as that feels, it forces you to rise, to adapt, and to find strength you never knew you had just to keep moving with it. You can't fix people who don't want to change. One of the most heartbreaking truths in life is realizing that no matter how much you love someone, no matter how much you pour into them, you cannot fix a person who does not want to change. You can offer guidance, support, forgiveness, and second chances until you are empty, but if they are not willing to confront themselves, your efforts will always collapse. Change cannot be forced from the outside. It has to be chosen from within. This truth hurts so deeply because it collides with our hope. We want to believe our love can save them, that our patience can soften them, that our sacrifices will inspire them to become better. But people do not transform because you want them to. They transform only when the pain of staying the same becomes heavier than the fear of changing. Until they reach that point, your efforts are nothing more than bandages on wounds they refuse to heal. The sting is realizing how much of yourself you can lose trying to fix someone else. You sacrifice your peace, your time, your dreams, all in the name of holding them together, only to find they were never willing to stand on their own. Love becomes a cage, and your compassion becomes the very thing draining you. The brutal freedom comes when you accept this truth. You are responsible for your growth, and they are responsible for theirs. You cannot carry someone across a finish line they refuse to run toward, and if they don't want to change, no amount of love, patience, or sacrifice will ever be enough. Laziness costs more than effort. Laziness feels cheap in the moment. Skipping the workout saves energy. Ignoring the project spares stress. Putting things off gives you the fleeting comfort of rest. But what feels like a small savings always becomes a massive debt. The brutal truth is that laziness costs far more than effort ever will. Every time you avoid the grind, the price compounds in silence until it becomes unbearable. The sting of this truth reveals itself in regret. The body you neglected demands payment with pain, weakness, and sickness. The opportunities you ignored vanish forever, leaving you with nothing but the memory of what could have been. The dreams you delayed rot into fantasies, and the comfort you clung to hardens into chains. What once felt like a harmless choice becomes a lifetime of consequences. Effort is painful, yes. Work is uncomfortable, discipline is exhausting, and sacrifice stings. But effort pays forward. It builds strength, creates opportunities, and plants seeds that grow. Laziness pays backward. It steals tomorrow's freedom for today's ease. And the cruelest part is that by the time you realize the cost, it's often too late to repair what's been lost. This lesson is brutal because it exposes how every choice you make is a trade. Pain now or pain later, sweat or regret. The effort you resist is never as heavy as the punishment laziness delivers in the long run. And no matter how safe laziness feels in the moment, the bill always comes due, and it's always higher than you expected. Envy poisons your own progress. Envy feels like a natural reaction. You see someone with the success, beauty, or life you crave, and your heart twists with bitterness. But the brutal truth is that envy does nothing to bring you closer to what you want. Instead, it corrodes you from the inside, poisoning your focus, your joy, and your drive. While you're busy staring at someone else's lane, you stop running in your own. You trade growth for resentment, momentum for comparison, and all the while, the person you envy continues moving forward while you stand still, shackled by your own jealousy. Envy whispers lies that make the poison spread deeper. It convinces you that their success somehow diminishes yours, that the world is a zero-sum game where their win must mean your loss. It fuels quiet hatred, not because you don't want them to have it, but because you can't bear the mirror it holds up to your own stagnation. And the more you feed it, the more it blinds you to the opportunities already in front of you. The pain of envy is that it feels justified, but it's self-inflicted. The people you envy are not the ones stealing your progress. You are. Every second spent wishing for their downfall is a second stolen from your own rise. Envy doesn't hurt them. It suffocates you. It robs you of gratitude, of clarity, of peace. And the longer you carry it, the more it turns you into a shadow of who you could have been. Because the truth is simple. Envy never builds. It only burns. And the first thing it burns is you. Comfort is addictive. Comfort feels safe, warm, and harmless. But it is one of the most dangerous addictions you can ever fall into. The human mind craves ease, predictability, and familiarity. Once you taste comfort, it seduces you into staying still, telling you that risk is unnecessary, that effort is optional, that tomorrow will always give you another chance. But tomorrow becomes next week, next month, next year, and suddenly decades slip away while you sit in the same place, untouched by growth, unscarred by effort, but also unrewarded by progress. The danger of comfort is that it doesn't feel like poison. It feels good. It feels deserved. After all, what's wrong with rest, with safety, with staying where things don't hurt? But comfort quietly robs you of hunger, of ambition, of the fire to push into the unknown. It replaces dreams with routines, and before you know it, you're existing instead of living. What was once a temporary break becomes a permanent prison. This truth is brutal because you don't notice comfort's grip until it's too late. By the time you realize it, opportunities have passed, energy has faded, and potential has rotted into regret. Comfort whispers that you're fine where you are, but every year you stay trapped in its arms, a part of you dies. The addiction to comfort is stronger than fear, stronger than failure, because it doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like peace. But in reality, it's the quiet suffocation of everything you could have been, disguised as safety. And once it claims you, escaping it becomes the fight of your life. Most people fake confidence. Confidence looks powerful from the outside. Steady voices, straight posture, unwavering eye contact. It intimidates, it inspires, it convinces others that the person in front of them has it all figured out. But the brutal truth is that most people are faking it. Beneath the polished exterior lies doubt, fear, and insecurity they've learned to hide. People wear confidence like armor, not because they feel strong, but because they're terrified of being seen as weak. This truth stings because we compare our private chaos to everyone else's public mask. We assume others are fearless while we tremble, that they are certain while we second guess, that they belong while we feel out of place. But behind closed doors, the same people who look unshakable in public often wrestle with anxiety, shame, and self-doubt. Their confidence is often nothing more than practice performance, a survival tactic in a world that rewards certainty and punishes hesitation. The emotional punch comes when you realize how much power you've given to illusions. You've envied people who were just as insecure as you. You've held yourself back because you assumed others had something you didn't. In truth, the difference is not that they feel braver, it's that they've learned to act braver. And that realization can cut both ways. It's sobering to know that so much of what you admire is fake, but it's also liberating. Because if confidence is often an illusion, you can create it too. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You can step forward, shaky and uncertain, and wear the mask until it becomes real. Being right doesn't mean you'll win. We grow up believing that truth triumphs, that logic defeats lies, and that being right will naturally lead to victory. But life is far harsher. Being right doesn't mean you'll win. You can have all the facts, all the evidence, all the righteousness on your side, and still lose to someone louder, richer, more influential, or simply more cunning. The world doesn't operate on fairness. It operates on power, perception, and persuasion. This truth cuts deep because it exposes the gap between justice and reality. You can argue your case until your voice cracks, but if no one listens, your truth dies in silence. You can fight for what's fair, but if the system is stacked against you, fairness never enters the equation. History is filled with people who were right long before the world was ready to admit it. People mocked, silenced, and destroyed while the wrong thrived. The pain of this lesson comes from realizing that truth alone is not enough. Facts don't win battles by themselves. You need strategy, timing, influence, and sometimes even compromise to see your truth prevail. And even then, there are no guarantees. It's a devastating reality because it forces you to see how often victory is shaped not by who is right, but by who is willing to do what it takes to win. And though the truth may outlive lies, that doesn't mean it will save you in the moment. Being right gives you clarity, but in this world, clarity is not the same as triumph. People lie, often. One of the cruelest truths to accept is that people lie far more often than you want to believe. They lie to protect themselves, to avoid consequences, to get what they want, to look better than they are, or simply because it's easier than facing the truth. Some lies are small and seemingly harmless. I'm fine. I'll call you back. It's no big deal. Others are devastating. Promises never meant to be kept. Commitments broken without hesitation. Truths hidden that could shatter you if revealed. The reality is that deception is woven into human behavior, and pretending otherwise only sets you up for heartbreak. The sting of this lesson comes when you realize lies don't always come from enemies. They come from the people you trust most. Friends who tell you what you want to hear, partners who swear loyalty while betraying it, co-workers who promise support but plot behind closed doors. Each lie chips away at your trust until you begin questioning everything. Was that smile real? Was that promise genuine? Was that love true? Lies don't just distort reality. They warp your ability to trust your own judgment. What makes this truth so painful is how much we need honesty to feel safe. We want to believe words mean something, that people say what they mean and mean what they say. But life teaches you otherwise. People lie, often, easily, and sometimes without even realizing it. And the longer you deny it, the more devastating the betrayal feels when it finally reveals itself. Lies are not the exception. They are the rule you must learn to see through. Your potential means nothing without execution. Potential is seductive. It makes people praise you for your talent, admire your intelligence, or envy your abilities. It fills your head with visions of what you could achieve, what you might become, what your future should look like. But potential is only a shadow. It has no weight, no power, no reality until it is executed. The world doesn't reward what you are capable of. It rewards what you actually do. And the brutal truth is that graveyards are full of people who died with enormous potential, never having turned it into anything real. What makes this so painful is how comforting potential feels. It allows you to bask in the illusion of greatness without the discomfort of work. People say, "You're so gifted, you're destined for more," and you believe it, as if destiny will knock on your door without effort. But potential is perishable. Without action, it rots. Every day you postpone, every risk you avoid, every excuse you make strips away at the life you could have built. Execution is where the truth lives. It's unglamorous. It's waking up early when no one's watching. It's stumbling through failure, learning, adjusting, and trying again. It's grinding through boredom, rejection, and resistance. It's the ugly, relentless work that turns dreams into something you can touch. Potential demands nothing. Execution demands everything. The harsh reality is this: Nobody will remember you for what you could have done. They'll only remember what you actually did. And until you learn to cross that bridge from possibility to reality, your potential is nothing more than an echo of the life you never lived. Blaming others keeps you stuck. Blame feels comforting. It gives you an enemy to point at, a reason for your pain, a way to explain why life hasn't turned out the way you wanted. It's easier to say it's your parents' fault, your boss's fault, your partner's fault, society's fault. And maybe sometimes you're right. They did fail you. They did hurt you. They did make life harder. But here's the brutal truth. Blame changes nothing. It may justify your anger, but it doesn't move you forward. The more you cling to it, the more you chain yourself to the very thing you hate. This truth cuts deep because blame feels like protection. If it's someone else's fault, then you don't have to face your own responsibility. You don't have to confront your choices, your patterns, your role in your own suffering. But while blame feels like a shield, it's actually a prison. It keeps you replaying the same story, the same pain, over and over again, while your life quietly slips away. The sting of this lesson is realizing that even if the pain wasn't your fault, the healing still has to be your responsibility. No one is coming to fix what they broke. No one is going to rewrite your story for you. The moment you stop pointing fingers is the moment you take your power back. Until then, you're stuck, living as a victim in a story that doesn't move forward. Blame may feel satisfying, but it robs you of growth. And if you don't let it go, it will steal your future too. You'll never have enough time for everything. No matter how disciplined, organized, or ambitious you are, there will never be enough time to do it all. The brutal truth is that life is too short, and the list of things you could do will always be longer than the years you have to live. Every choice you make comes with sacrifice. When you say yes to one thing, you are silently saying no to countless others, and those no's accumulate into lives unlived, paths unexplored, and opportunities forever lost. This truth is painful because it forces you to confront the weight of mortality. You will not read every book, travel to every country, master every skill, or love every person who could change your world. You will miss moments. You will let people down. You will leave projects unfinished. Even if you lived with perfect focus, the clock would still outrun you. The sting of this lesson comes when you realize how often you spend your limited hours on things that don't matter. Scrolling, worrying, procrastinating, drowning in obligations that steal your life 1 minute at a time. And while you waste your precious hours, the things you claim to care about sit untouched in the background, fading with each passing day. You'll never have enough time for everything, but you do have enough for what truly matters. The question is whether you'll use it with intention, or whether you'll wake up one day staring at the wreckage of wasted years, wondering how it all slipped away. Success comes with sacrifices you may not like. Everyone wants success, but few are prepared for the price it demands. The fantasy is that you can have it all: wealth, freedom, love, friendships, health, peace. But the brutal truth is that real success always comes with sacrifices, and often they are the ones you least expect or want to give. To climb higher, you will trade sleep for work, comfort for struggle, time with loved ones for hours of grind. You may lose friendships that can't withstand your ambition, relationships that can't endure your focus, or moments with family you can never get back. Success asks for pieces of your life that feel unfair to surrender, yet it takes them anyway. The sting comes when you realize it's not just about working harder, it's about choosing what to cut. Every yes to your dream is a no to something else. The late nights mean missed memories. The relentless focus means isolation. The discipline means denying yourself pleasures others indulge in freely. Success looks glamorous from the outside, but behind it is a trail of sacrifices that often leave scars. And sometimes, even when you achieve what you wanted, you look back and wonder if the trade was worth it. This lesson hurts because it dismantles the illusion that you can win without losing. Success is not free. It extracts payment in relationships, health, time, or peace. The cost varies, but it is always there. And the deeper truth is that you don't always get to choose what you sacrifice. Sometimes success demands the very things you swore you'd never give up, and you have to decide if your dream is worth the price. Some relationships expire, no matter what you do. One of the most brutal lessons in life is realizing that not all relationships are meant to last forever. You can pour love, loyalty, and effort into someone and still watch the bond dissolve. You can fight for them with everything you have and still lose them. Some relationships expire, not because of betrayal, not because of neglect, but simply because people change, paths diverge, priorities shift, and the person you once felt inseparable from becomes a stranger standing in front of you. This truth is excruciating because it feels unfair. You replay every memory, every sacrifice, every promise, wondering how something so strong could fade into nothing. You try harder, give more, cling tighter, convinced you can stop the unraveling if only you don't let go. But no amount of love can stop time from pulling people in different directions. And sometimes the harder you fight to keep what's slipping away, the more painful the break becomes. What makes this lesson so haunting is how powerless it leaves you. You realize that love is not always enough, that shared history doesn't guarantee a shared future, that even soul-deep connections can reach their natural end no matter how desperately you wish otherwise. And you are left standing in the wreckage, forced to accept that not every goodbye comes with closure, not every ending comes with explanation. The hardest part is learning to let go without resentment, to honor what once was without destroying yourself, trying to keep it alive. Because some relationships, no matter how much they mean, are only chapters, not the whole story. What you tolerate is what you'll get. Life has a cruel way of giving you exactly what you're willing to accept. Every time you let someone disrespect you without consequence, you teach them that their behavior is allowed. Every time you swallow mistreatment in silence, you show the world that you value peace over dignity. What you tolerate becomes the standard, and once that line is drawn, people rarely rise above it. They sink to it. This truth is painful because tolerance often feels like patience, like love, like sacrifice. You tell yourself you're being understanding, that things will change, that enduring a little more will prove your worth. But tolerance is a double-edged sword. While it spares you conflict in the moment, it slowly erodes your self-respect. The longer you allow it, the harder it becomes to demand anything better. You don't just tolerate others, you train yourself to settle for less. The sting comes later, when resentment builds. You look around at the disrespect, the broken boundaries, the endless disappointment, and wonder why life keeps dealing you the same pain. But the answer is brutal. It's because you allowed it. You accepted it. You stayed silent when you should have spoken, and the world simply mirrored back the standard you set for yourself. The reality is people will always push as far as you let them. They will take, test, and stretch until you enforce a boundary. If you tolerate lies, you'll be lied to. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll be disrespected. And until you demand more, you'll keep getting less. Because life doesn't hand you the respect you want. It hands you the respect you're willing to enforce. People project their insecurities onto you. So often, the criticism you hear, the judgment you feel, and the negativity directed toward you has little to do with who you are, and everything to do with the insecurities of the person delivering it. People see in you what they fear in themselves. They point out flaws they secretly battle. They mock ambitions they were too afraid to chase. They resent strengths that remind them of their own weaknesses. What they throw at you is not a reflection of your truth. It's a mirror of their pain. This truth cuts deep because it feels personal. When someone belittles you, doubts you, or shames you, it feels like proof that you aren't enough. You carry their words like chains, replaying them until you begin to believe them. But the sting is realizing those words were never about you. They were about them. Their wounds bleed into how they see the world, and you became the target. It doesn't excuse the cruelty, but it explains why it stings so much. You thought they were showing you your reflection, when in reality, they were only revealing their own. The painful part is that projections can be so convincing, you start to confuse them for reality. You let other people's fears shrink your confidence, their jealousy poison your victories, their doubts sabotage your dreams. But when you finally recognize projection for what it is, something inside you shifts. You stop carrying their insecurities as if they are your own. And though their words may still cut, you no longer bleed for them, because you know the wound was never yours to begin with. The world doesn't slow down when you're tired. Exhaustion doesn't grant you mercy. Fatigue doesn't earn you sympathy. The world keeps spinning, relentless, no matter how drained, broken, or overwhelmed you feel. Deadlines don't vanish because you need rest. Bills don't pause because you're burned out. Responsibilities don't fade just because your body and mind are screaming for relief. The brutal truth is that the world doesn't slow down when you're tired. It demands the same from you regardless of how much strength you have left to give. This lesson cuts deep because tiredness feels like it should matter. You believe there should be understanding, that others will recognize your limits, that life itself will wait for you to recover. But it doesn't. Life is merciless. While you stumble, someone else is sprinting. While you collapse, the world moves forward without you, and it won't stop to see if you catch up. What makes this truth so painful is the crushing weight of knowing that your exhaustion doesn't excuse you from consequences. If you give up, the work still piles higher. If you withdraw, opportunities still vanish. If you fall behind, someone else takes your place. You can cry, scream, or collapse, but the world remains indifferent. And yet, hidden in this merciless reality is a savage reminder of urgency. If you want to survive, if you want to thrive, you must learn how to keep moving even when you're tired. Rest when you can, fight when you must, but never expect the world to wait for you. It never will. Being alone is better than being with the wrong people. Loneliness can feel unbearable, and in that ache for connection, people often settle for relationships that drain them instead of nurture them. But the brutal truth is that being alone is far better than surrounding yourself with the wrong people. The wrong people disguise themselves as friends, lovers, even family, but instead of lifting you, they suffocate you. They belittle your dreams, dismiss your feelings, exploit your kindness, and chain you to cycles of disappointment. You think their presence will ease your loneliness, but in reality, their presence only deepens it, leaving you feeling emptier than if you had been alone. The sting comes from realizing how much damage the wrong people can cause. They can warp the way you see yourself, convincing you that you're less capable, less deserving, less worthy than you truly are. They can sabotage your growth because your light threatens them. They can strip away your peace, replacing it with chaos that leaves you exhausted and broken. And yet, many endure this torment out of fear of solitude, clinging to relationships that are slowly killing them because silence feels scarier than suffering. But the truth is that solitude is not the enemy. Wrong people are. Being alone gives you space to breathe, to heal, to rebuild yourself without someone's negativity weighing on your spirit. It gives you the freedom to discover who you are without distortion. The pain of isolation is temporary, but the damage of staying with the wrong people can last a lifetime. Walking alone may feel heavy, but it is far lighter than being chained to those who were never meant to walk beside you. Trust takes years to earn and seconds to lose. Trust is one of the most fragile currencies in human connection. It is built slowly, brick by brick, through consistency, honesty, and reliability. It takes years of showing up, keeping promises, and proving loyalty before someone feels safe enough to place their faith in you. But the brutal truth is that all of that work can be destroyed in a single instant. One lie, one betrayal, one moment of weakness, and the foundation you spent years creating collapses like it never existed at all. This truth stings because it feels unfair. You can give someone your best self for so long, only to have one mistake outweigh 1,000 acts of love. People remember the wound longer than the healing. They hold on to the betrayal tighter than the trust you built before it. And no matter how much you apologize, how deeply you regret, how desperately you try to fix it, the scar remains. Sometimes it's permanent. Sometimes there's no going back. The pain of this reality is heavier when you're the one betrayed. You realize how vulnerable you were, how much you gave, how much of yourself you placed in someone else's hands, only to have it shattered in seconds. The security you felt is gone, replaced with doubt that lingers like a shadow. The brutality of trust is its imbalance. It demands time to earn, yet needs only a breath to destroy. And once it's broken, even if forgiveness is possible, things are never the same. The glass may be glued back together, but the cracks will always show. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Loyalty is one of the most beautiful qualities a person can have, but it becomes destructive when given to the wrong people. The harsh truth is that not everyone deserves your loyalty. Some people will take your devotion and use it for their own gain, offering nothing in return. They will betray you, lie to you, and abandon you the moment it benefits them. And the more loyal you remain to the undeserving, the more you drain yourself for people who would never do the same for you. This truth stings because loyalty feels like honor. We are taught that standing by someone no matter what is noble, that unconditional devotion is proof of love and strength. But in reality, loyalty without discernment is self-destruction. When you stay loyal to someone toxic, abusive, or selfish, you're not proving your strength. You're proving your willingness to be used. The pain deepens when you realize that some of the people you stood by in their darkest times won't even remember you when they step into the light. You will sacrifice for them, defend them, carry their burdens, only to discover that they were never truly on your side. And that betrayal cuts deeper than hate because it comes from the very person you believed was worthy of your trust. Loyalty must be earned, not blindly given. And the brutal lesson is this: when you give your loyalty to the wrong people, you lose pieces of yourself you will never get back. Some people are not worth standing beside, and the sooner you let them go, the freer you become. Life doesn't give warnings before it changes. One moment you're living your ordinary routine, and the next, everything is unrecognizable. That's the brutality of life. It doesn't give you warnings before it changes. There's no announcement, no countdown, no chance to prepare. A phone call can split your world in half. A single decision can reroute your entire future. An accident, a loss, an opportunity, or even a random encounter can alter everything you thought you knew about your path. The ground beneath your feet feels solid until it isn't. This truth cuts deep because humans crave stability. We like to believe tomorrow will look like today, that we have time to prepare, that we can predict the storms before they arrive. But life doesn't ask permission to unravel. Jobs disappear without notice. Relationships end in a single conversation. Loved ones vanish in an instant. And sometimes, even the good changes arrive suddenly, overwhelming you because you weren't ready for them either. The sting is in the silence before it all shifts, because you never know which ordinary day will be the last ordinary day. That breakfast with your family, that quick goodbye, that mundane routine you barely noticed might be the final time it ever happens. And when the change comes, you are forced to face it without armor. That is why this lesson hurts, because control is an illusion. Life moves on its own clock, and it will transform without asking if you're ready. One moment can turn your world upside down, and by the time you realize it, everything has already changed. Dreams without deadlines are fantasies. Dreams feel intoxicating. They give you hope, ignite your imagination, and make you believe in a life greater than the one you're living now. But without deadlines, they are nothing more than fantasies, beautiful illusions that will never leave the safety of your mind. A dream without a date is just a wish, and wishes don't build empires, write books, or change lives. The harsh truth is that every day you delay putting structure to your dream, it drifts further into the realm of someday, and someday almost always turns into never. This lesson hurts because we love the comfort of dreaming. It allows us to live in the glow of possibility without the discomfort of action. In your mind, you're already successful. You imagine the applause, the freedom, the fulfillment, but in reality, nothing has changed. And as years pass, the gap between who you are and who you wanted to be grows unbearable. You start to realize that time, not talent, was the real enemy. Deadlines force reality. They demand sacrifice, focus, and urgency. They strip away excuses and expose whether you're truly committed or just addicted to the idea of success. Without them, dreams give you dopamine, but no progress, hope, but no results. And the longer you indulge in fantasy, the heavier regret becomes. The brutal truth is this: the world is full of dreamers, but empty of doers. Your dreams are worthless until you anchor them in time, until you say not just one day, but by this day. Otherwise, they will die as fantasies, buried with the version of you that never found the courage to act. Your past doesn't define your future. It's easy to believe that your past is a prison, that your mistakes, your failures, and the things you've suffered will forever dictate who you are and what you can become. The shame of what you've done or what was done to you can cling to you like a shadow that never leaves. People around you may remind you of it, labels may follow you, and even your own mind can whisper that you are nothing more than the sum of your scars. But here's the brutal truth: your past does not define your future. It only defines you if you allow it to. This lesson cuts deep because it's hard to forgive yourself. It's hard to accept that you deserve better when you've spent years believing you're broken. Pain feels permanent when you've lived inside it for too long. But the truth is, the future is blind to your past. It does not care where you've been, only where you're willing to go. Every single day you wake up, you are handed a chance to build again, to rewrite your story, to choose differently. The sting of this truth is that the responsibility lies with you. You cannot blame your past forever, because at some point, holding on to it becomes a choice, and that realization is both painful and liberating. You are not trapped, but you are also not excused. Your past may explain you, but it doesn't have to define you. The only thing that defines your future is the courage to take the next step, even when the weight of yesterday is still heavy on your shoulders. No one else can live your life for you. You can lean on others for guidance, inspiration, or support, but in the end, the weight of your life is yours alone to carry. No one can walk your path for you. No one can chase your dreams, fight your battles, or bear the cost of your choices. The brutal truth is that no one else can live your life for you, and if you don't take ownership of it, you will spend your days existing under the shadows of other people's expectations, never truly stepping into your own. This realization stings because dependence feels easier. It's tempting to believe someone will come along to show you the way, to fix the mess, to push you forward when you're paralyzed by fear. But even if they love you, even if they want the best for you, they cannot live inside your skin. They cannot feel your hunger or your calling. They cannot bleed for your mistakes or savor the joy of your victories. Those belong to you alone. The pain of this truth comes when you realize how often you've surrendered control, waiting for permission, blaming circumstances, living by someone else's script. But every day you hesitate, every day you choose passivity, your life slips further away, lived not by you, but by the inertia of others. And here lies the sting. If you don't claim your life, it will claim you. And when the end comes, no one else will carry the regret of unlived dreams. It will be yours and yours alone. You'll never feel ready. We tell ourselves we'll start when the timing is right, when we feel confident, when we've prepared enough, when fear finally loosens its grip. But the cruel truth is, you'll never feel ready. There will always be doubt, always be fear, always be another excuse to wait. Readiness is an illusion we cling to because it makes us feel safe, but in reality, it's nothing more than procrastination dressed as preparation. The perfect moment never arrives. It has to be created. This truth stings because it forces you to admit how much of your life you've already delayed. The dream you've been holding off, the words you've been swallowing, the risks you've been postponing, none of them are waiting for you to feel brave. The opportunity passes while you keep convincing yourself you're not ready yet. And when you look back, you realize you weren't waiting for readiness. You were waiting for fear to disappear, and fear never truly disappears. The emotional weight of this lesson is devastating because it reveals that hesitation is often more destructive than failure itself. At least failure teaches. At least failure proves you tried. But waiting for readiness leaves you with nothing but regrets of what could have been. You'll never wake up one morning suddenly free of fear. You'll never have all the answers. You'll never feel perfectly prepared. And yet, the people who build extraordinary lives aren't the ones who waited until they were ready. They're the ones who moved forward anyway, trembling hands and racing hearts, ready or not. Your parents won't be here forever. It's a truth most people bury deep inside, one they refuse to face until it's too late. Your parents will not be here forever. The voices that shaped your childhood, the faces that greeted you when you came home, the people you took for granted as permanent fixtures in your life are not unshakable. One day, their chair will be empty, their phone will go unanswered, and their absence will echo louder than their presence ever did. That thought alone has the power to break you. Yet, most of us push it aside, living as though our parents will always be just a call away. The brutality of this lesson is in its timing. By the time you realize how precious their existence was, the clock has already run out. You spend years arguing over small things, ignoring their calls, postponing visits because you're too busy, all while time silently steals them away. You assume there will be another holiday, another dinner, another chance to tell them you love them. And then suddenly, there isn't. The regrets that follow are merciless because you can never buy back a single second once it's gone. It hurts because deep down you know they won't always be there to guide you, forgive you, or remind you who you are. And yet, within that pain lies an urgent reminder. Every laugh, every story, every hug is finite. The love they give is fragile and irreplaceable. The clock is ticking whether you acknowledge it or not, and when it stops, it will leave a silence you'll never be able to fill. Nobody is too busy. You're just not a priority. It stings like fire to realize that when someone says they're too busy, what they really mean is that you're not high enough on their list of priorities. Time is the most limited resource every person has, and we all spend it on what matters most to us. If someone wanted to call you, they would. If they wanted to see you, they would. If they truly valued your presence, they would carve out even a sliver of time, no matter how chaotic their life is. The truth is not that they are drowning in responsibilities. It's that you don't matter to them as much as you wish you did. This lesson hurts because it forces you to face your place in someone else's life. You replay excuses, convincing yourself they must be overwhelmed or that timing is just off. But deep down, you know, people always make time for what they want. They cancel other plans for the person they're in love with. They stay up late for the friend they cherish. They sacrifice sleep, money, and comfort when something truly matters to them. If they aren't doing it for you, the reason is simple. You're not the priority. That truth slices at your self-worth because it feels like rejection in its rawest form. It's not that they can't, it's that they won't. And yet, hidden in the pain is clarity. You stop clinging to scraps of attention. You stop excusing neglect disguised as busyness, and you begin to understand that the right people will never be too busy for you, because to them, you'll always be worth the time.